Join the Discord for chapter updates and important news. Chapter 363, Is It Not a Joy to Have Friends Come From Afar? 7. The reason Buck Hyung-hwa became close with Seo Ran was partly due to their meeting through Song Jin, and partly because of the amusing incident involving the engagement between Shi-ho and Seo Ran, which the parties themselves couldn't laugh at. However, one of the reasons she started talking to Seo Ran was because her childhood name was also Ran, Chinese letter/orchid. She remembered her childhood. Even now, when she closed her eyes, she could almost smell the faint scent of magnolias tickling her nose. Rana, the voice of a woman lovingly calling her childhood name, Chinese letter, echoed. No, it's now time to stop using your childhood name, right, Hyung-hwa. Buck Hyung-hwa was clinging to a frail-looking woman lying on a bed. No, just call me Ran. Hyung-hwa sounds weird. Hoo, it's okay, it's a pretty name. I don't think so. While Hyung-hwa was clinging to the frail woman, a middle-aged man with a stern face brought a bowl of herbal medicine. I've brought the medicine, Yona. Thank you. It was Buck Jung-ho, Hyung-hwa's father. Buck Jung-ho, with his stern yet somewhat sad face, fed the medicine to the frail woman, Yeon, Hyung-hwa's mother. After drinking the medicine, Yeon coughed dryly. Day by day, her vitality seemed to wither away. Hyung-hwa, can you live well even without Mom? Hyung-hwa shook her head. Mom, where are you going? She buried her head in Yeon's chest and cried. No, don't go, I've been having strange dreams lately. Last night a rainbow-colored bird crushed me. I'm scared to sleep alone. My dear Hyung-hwa, now that you've outgrown your childhood name, you should learn to sleep alone. If you're too scared, you can sleep with Dad. Nevertheless, Buck Hyung-hwa clung to Yeon, crying. Even though she was young, she had a rough understanding. It was hard to comprehend death, but she had a strong premonition that she would never see her mother, Yeon, again. Seeing Hyung-hwa clinging to her side, Yeon sighed softly and handed her a jade norgi lying beside the bed. T-Tuck Hyung-hwa, Mom will give you a present, take this. TL/N. T-Tuck is an onomatopoeic expression often used by parents to encourage their child to stop crying. It's similar to saying shush, but in a less demanding tone in English. It mimics the sound a child might make when they stop crying abruptly. What is this? It's a promise I made with a friend when I was little. Yeon gently patted Hyung-hwa's head. Hyung-hwa listened to the promise entwined with the norgi. So, when you meet that friend's child someday, ask how Hwia is doing. Yes, and I will keep the promise well. If it's a girl, I'll make her my sister, and if it's a boy, I'll marry him. You don't have to if you don't want to. More than that, just ask how they are. No, I'll keep the promise, definitely. Hyung-hwa grasped Yeon's hand, making a firm vow. Yeon patted Hyung-hwa's head. Receiving her mother's gentle touch, Hyung-hwa hugged the jade norgi and fell asleep. Her hand smelled of magnolias. //. Mom. Buck Hyung-hwa wakes up dreaming of her mother, Yeon. A strange floral fragrance wafts from somewhere, and delicate fingers seem to stroke Buck Hyung-hwa's cheek. Mom. Buck Hyung-hwa grabs the hand stroking her cheek and opens her blurry eyes wide. And then she flinches in surprise. The person stroking her cheek is not Buck Hyung-hwa's long-passed-away mother, Yeon. It's Kim Yeon, dressed in a light pink robe. Buck Hyung-hwa raises her upper body from the bed with a wary expression. She quickly looks around to grasp the situation. This isn't a torture chamber or a prison. The bed is clean. There are no restraining spells or prohibitions set up. I'm not a prisoner. Are they treating me as a guest? My magic artifacts. None are here. Buck Hyung-hwa, though not completely relaxed, slightly eases her guard and asks Kim Yeon. What's going on? I definitely gave the self-destruct order for the first Hyung ship. Kim Yeon scoffs and replies. What do you think would be so hard about canceling the self-destruct order to that toy ship? Buck Hyung-hwa nearly loses her composure at the dismissal of her creation, but she barely holds back and touches her cheek. By the way, why were you stroking my face so gently? I was plucking out the consciousness threads that got into your head. Your head is small, so it was easy to pull them out. It's no wonder your magic artifacts are the way they are with that small head of yours. Once again, Buck Hyung-hwa's forehead veins bulge at the insult to her creation. It must be nice to have such a big head. Kim Yone's forehead veins also bulge in response. Yeah, I guess I'm a bit taller than you, shorty. You said your name was Kim Yone, right? Can you please change it? It feels like an insult to a great person I know with the same name. Oh my, why bring up another person because of your height? Even if I don't like it, I can still call my master's name. Huh, what kind of great person did you learn from to act like this? You, a person from the ancient force realm, wouldn't know even if I told you. Why are you embarrassed to say? HMPH, I told you, you really wouldn't know. Well, he has a strange title called Mad Lord, but his puppet technique is. Then the next moment, Buk Hyung Hwa's mouth drops open. Kim Yone notices her strange atmosphere and looks puzzled. Buk Hyung Hwa's expression becomes blank for a moment before she asks in a trembling voice. You're your master, is Mad Lord Jo Yone. That's right, bud. The one with the hunchback who rides the wonderfully mysterious fortress. What, how do you know that? Weren't you born in the ancient force realm? Buk Hyung Hwa doesn't answer Kim Yone's question and remains in a daze. Remaining dazed for a while, Buk Hyung Hwa's momentum lowers compared to Kim Yone. How can that person's disciple be such a rude human? Kim Yone feels her mood sour, but when she sees Buk Hyung Hwa avoiding eye contact and looking down, she grins widely. And you were defeated and captured by that rude human, no? I didn't lose to you. Excuses, but how old are you to be using you and you? TL/N, Korean formality stuff, doesn't translate into English. Kim Yone asks Buk Hyung Hwa's age, and she hesitates before answering. 271. You're younger than me. When Kim Yone and her group fell to Ascension Path, Kim Yone was 26 years old, and Buk Hyung Hwa was 18. Although that much of an age difference became negligible after becoming cultivators, Kim Yone crosses her arms and speaks to assert dominance over Buk Hyung Hwa. Call me Unnai. Buk Hyung Hwa hesitates, but the fact that Kim Yone is the Mad Lord's disciple lingers in her mind. Und. What? Und. Can you say it louder? Uncouth thing. However, Buk Hyung Hwa can't accept Kim Yone, who dismissed her creations, and eventually her hidden feelings burst out. A vein bulges on Kim Yone's forehead as her delicate jade-like hand grabs Buk Hyung Hwa's shoulder. Kim Yone glares at Buk Hyung Hwa for a moment, but then sighs and stands up. Fine, what am I even doing with a child? HMPH, the one who looks like a child is you. Yeah, well, you must enjoy looking withered, thanks for the compliment. Looking down at Buk Hyung Hwa, she speaks. Well, I almost forgot while bickering with you. You're a comrade of Seo Ran the Dragon, Shiho the Fox, and Kim Young-hoon, right? Buk Hyung Hwa, who had been seething, calms down and nods. She momentarily forgot due to the good treatment, but, strictly speaking, she is in a situation where she has been captured while fighting Kim Yone. What's the situation here? Judging by her tone when speaking of Seo Ran, Shiho, and Sir Kim Young-hoon, has she known them for a long time? Kim Yone explains the general situation to Buk Hyung Hwa. Yunhyan Oppa, I mean our cult leader, the Wuji Ghost King, met Seo Ran and Shiho while he was in the lower realm. Then what's his relationship with Sir Kim Young-hoon? That person used to be part of our comp. How should I put it? Well, he was more or less our comrade. Buk Hyung Hwa's eyes widen in surprise at this revelation. Sir Kim Young-hoon was originally a follower of a suspicious cult of ghostly creatures. No wonder he has many titles involving divine and demon. She looks up at Kim Yone with tense eyes and asks, What will you do with me? For now, you're the comrade of our comrade, so we won't be hostile. But since you did lead a fleet that caused damage to our order, we will decide after meeting with the cult leader. See cult leader? Buk Hyung Hwa swallows at the mention of the cult leader. She has a rough idea of who this cult leader might be. The one who occupies virtually 1/3 of the Buk Hyung fleet's strength and has practically handed over the title of Conqueror King to Buk Hyung Hwa. And one of the decisive reasons her fleet gained the title of the Invincible Fleet. That Kim Young-hoon fought that entity at a stalemate and was even forced him to send a distress signal in the end. The monstrous cultivator who could duel with Kim Young-hoon while moving across the entire battlefield within 10 seconds, easily breaking through the sea circle barrier Buk Hyung Hwa's Buk Hyung fleet prided itself on. That person must be the cult leader. She breaks into a cold sweat. What kind of person are they? At that, Kim Yeon's face turns red. That person is, yes, he's an extraordinary person. Buk Hyung-hwa realizes one thing from seeing Kim Yeon's reaction. This woman is in love with the cult leader. And through Kim Yeon's reaction, she forms a prejudice about the cult leader. If this rude woman likes him, the cult leader must be an incredibly twisted and bizarre person. Or perhaps he's not even human, being the cult leader of ghosts. Kim Yeon, who talks about Seo Yoon-hyun for a while, suddenly frowns at Buk Hyung-hwa's intent, as if finding it unpleasant. You seem to be having some impure thoughts, but for now, get up and change your clothes. You need to be instilled with the etiquette and language used in Wuji religious order. Hurry up. What? No, wait, what are you doing, Kaya? With an irritated expression, Kim Yeon lifts Buk Hyung-hwa up and changes her clothes, using the wonderfully mysterious innate heart canon to instill the language and etiquette of the Wuji religious order. /////. Oh no, I didn't realize my master was worried. I should have considered that. I'm truly sorry for my master. As soon as Kim Young-hoon woke up, Seo Ran heard about why they came inside with regret. The recently awakened Kim Young-hoon explained the situation to Seo Ran with an enlightened expression and welcomed us warmly. He reminisced with Jeon Myung-hoon, Oh Hyun-seok and me, catching up on old times, and expressed regret upon hearing about Kang Min-hee and Oh Hi-seo. Ahaha, but Hyung-nim, why do you look so weak and listless? You need to have a bomb shot, no. Oh Hyun-seok, who has always had a younger-older brother relationship with Kim Young-hoon, laughs heartily and approaches the rejuvenated Kim Young-hoon. But Kim Young-hoon, despite being approached by his closest younger brother Oh Hyun-seok's cheerful approach, only manages a hollow laugh with somewhat empty eyes. It shouldn't be because of me. I wonder if I had gone too far in destroying his cherished items, but since Kim Young-hoon doesn't say anything, I keep my mouth shut for now. And so Seo Ran, Shi-ho, Kim Young-hoon, Oh Hyun-seok, Jeon Myung-hoon, and I gather in the honored guest chambers and for the first time in a while, spend an enjoyable time laughing together. Just then, my consciousness detects two people approaching. Thump thump. Is it because we are drinking the ghost wine of the Wuji religious order, due to meeting up for the first time in a long while? Or is it perhaps because I haven't yet shaken off the shadows of my past? I feel my heart pound unnecessarily. And some time later, the door of the honored guest chamber opens. Two familiar faces appear. Kim Yeon and Buk Hyung-hwa. The long-unseen Buk Hyung-hwa is wearing clothes reminiscent of the ones she wore the day we danced together. ////. As Kim Yeon helps Buk Hyung-hwa change her clothes, she thinks, make it as plain as possible. She still remembers Seo Yoon-hyun's flickering intent when he first saw Buk Hyung-hwa. Because of this, Kim Yeon dresses Buk Hyung-hwa in the plain white attire worn by the maiden ghosts of the Wuji religious order. If I make her appearance as unimpressive as possible, Yoon-hyun Oppa won't take much interest, right? Then, after instilling some information into Buk Hyung-hwa using the wonderfully mysterious innate heart canon, she takes her to Seo Yoon-hyun. Soon after, Kim Yeon and Buk Hyung-hwa arrive at the place where Seo Yoon-hyun, the higher-ups of the Wuji religious order, and the higher-ups of the Conqueror fleet are gathered. Buk Hyung-hwa walks nervously, practically being dragged by Kim Yeon. Finally, they arrive at the honored guest chambers, and amidst her nervousness, she meets the eyes of Seo Yoon-hyun, who is seated there. Lo! Her eyes widen. Buk Hyung-hwa opens her mouth wide, repeatedly opening and closing before finally managing to speak with her hands on her beating chest. It was you, the person she had been searching for across the entire head realm while she was building the Buk Hyung fleet. The promised person who had brought the jade green norigi crafted by her mother, Yeon. Seo Yoon-hyun gives a faint smile. His intent wavers, and he wears an expression as if reminiscing about something. The first to notice the peculiar atmosphere between them is Kim Yeon. Kim Yeon stares at the back of Buk Hyung-hwa's head expressionlessly. She subtly infused a strand of her divided soul into Buk Hyung-hwa's body, using the wonderfully mysterious innate heart canon without her noticing, so that if they ever fight again, she can control her like a puppet. Buk Hyung-hwa, while staring blankly at Seo Yoon-hyun, takes out the jade norigi from her bosom. Last time you gave me this, didn't you? Seo Yunhyan looks at the Jade Norigi. Buk Hyung Hwa, her voice trembling, struggles to find the words. For some reason, she can't think of what to say. But barely, she manages to recall Yon's words. Ask how they are. Buk Hyung Hwa finally manages to ask Seo Yunhyan a question. This Norigi, what I mean is you aren't the original owner but you received it, correct? Seo Yunhyan wears a dazed expression for a moment, then nods. Buk Hyung Hwa asks Seo Yunhyan another question. The person who gave you this Norigi, were they well? Though it seems like a somewhat out-of-the-blue question, it's important to Buk Hyung Hwa. She had sworn not to leave Chinsik City until she asks this question to the person who delivers the Norigi. Yes, this was Yon's last wish. And Seo Yunhyan closes his eyes for a moment. /////. Were they well? The one who gave me that Norigi was Buk Hyung Hwa from the 10th cycle. I remember the moment I danced with her for the last time. I recall her pure soul ascending to the heavens after we shared our final kiss. Yes, she undoubtedly went to the afterlife without leaving any grudges. So surely, she must have been well. I nod and meet Buk Hyung Hwa's gaze, answering her. A person who gave me the Norigi left for the heavens without any regrets. I see, that's a relief. Though her question and my answer seem to have different meanings, I recall her from the 10th cycle and steel my heart. So there's no need for you to worry either, miss. The woman before me and the woman from before are different people. Let's make that clear. From now on, we can build a new connection and create a good relationship as comrades. But she is not the one with whom I shared love. Please have a seat, miss. The Wuji religious order and your conqueror fleet can become good allies. Buk Hyung Hwa, looking somewhat dazed, sits down. She seems to have expected something different from me, but at this moment, she, with whom I have no relationship built, is not the one I had given my heart to. ////. Buk Hyung Hwa sees that Seo Ran and Shiho are safe, and resolves her misunderstandings about the Wuji religious order after hearing about it. However, she still has a dazed expression. Surely, this is what I needed to hear. She was supposed to ask about their well-being as per her mother's will, and if possible, become sworn sisters or marry him. Of course, seeing that there's Kim Yon by the cult leader's side, she didn't have hopes for marriage. But why is it? Buk Hyung Hwa feels a deep ache, as if part of her heart has been torn away. It was like this back then. It was the same when that man first brought her the Norigi. She feels a strange sensation. Forcing a bitter smile, she excuses herself from the boisterous atmosphere of the honored guest chambers. Her chest feels strange. She finds a somewhat reasonable explanation for why she feels this way. Now what should I live for? One of her life's purposes was to follow her mother's will. Following her mother Yon's words, she received the Norigi and asked after their well-being. Maybe it's a sense of emptiness because she achieved all her goals. No, perhaps it's because she can no longer reminisce about her mother while achieving her goals. The sorrow of not being able to reminisce about her mother any longer as she follows her mother's words. And the surge of emotion when she saw that man. Various emotions well up inside her. Then Kim Yon appears beside her. Buk Hyung Hwa hides her melancholic expression and asks, "What do you want?" "I came out to keep an eye on you." That's really funny and childish. However, Kim Yon doesn't take issue with Buk Hyung Hwa's words and says, "If you want to cry, just cry." What? As a senior in life and a disciple of the Mad Lord, who is practically your superior counterpart, I'll accept it a bit. There are times when you suddenly feel like crying. Just what do you? But Buk Hyung Hwa realizes she is already shedding tears. Kim Yon, releasing the expression she had earlier when glaring at Buk Hyung Hwa, approaches her and pats her back. In the end, Buk Hyung Hwa bursts into tears in Kim Yon's embrace. She doesn't know why. Is it because the life goal that allowed her to reminisce about her mother has been fulfilled? Or is it because of Seo Yunhyan, who made her heart restless? Or perhaps it's because Kim Yon has the same name as her mother by coincidence. Yes, maybe it's because Kim Yon has a peculiar floral scent. Like the scent of magnolia her own mother had. Kim Yon extends her consciousness, blocking anyone from monitoring them within her consciousness domain, and comforts Buk Hyung Hwa, whose emotions have burst out unexpectedly. Kim Yeon still dislikes Buk Hyung-hwa. And Buk Hyung-hwa, who is crying in her arms, dislikes Kim Yeon just as much. However, Kim Yeon accepts Buk Hyung-hwa's sudden emotion for one single reason. Seo Yoon-hyun had done the same for Kim Yeon when she was struggling. Kim Yeon reads Buk Hyung-hwa's emotions through the vision of the wonderfully mysterious, innate heart canon. Emotions accommodate all of heaven's natural colors, so she can't read them all. However, Kim Yeon sees the heart that is mixed with worry and sadness for her parents, and she sees her past self overlapping with Buk Hyung-hwa. How long does Buk Hyung-hwa vent her emotions to Kim Yeon? Buk Hyung-hwa wipes her tears and says, "For now, I'll at least say thank you and nigh. // Discord https://dsc gg/wetread. Link to donations in the Discord. Chapter 364, Holding Hands 1. Join the Discord for chapter updates and important news. Chapter 364, Holding Hands 1. Buk Hyung-hwa and Kim Yeon seem to show some uneasy symptoms, but after a while, they return and rejoin us. Seeing that their intent seems a bit more stable, it doesn't seem necessary to worry too much. After enjoying a reunion with old friends, we gather the next day in the conference room of the Wuji Religious Hall. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for gathering here today. As the cult leader of the Wuji Religious Order, I sit on the main seat and address them. If yesterday was about reconnecting with old comrades, today is a more solemn occasion as we are meeting with the leaders of the Buk Hyung fleet that invaded the Twilight Domain. It's somewhat expected that the representative of the Buk Hyung fleet would be, true to the name, Buk Hyung-hwa. Thank you for the warm welcome, cult leader. Let's all start by having a cup of tea. I instruct the servant ghostly creatures of the Wuji Religious Order to bring tea. Shortly after, a pot of honey is placed in front of each of us, and plum tea, a specialty of the Nether Ghost Realm, is served. It's a bit sour for the average palate, so I recommend adding some of the honey in front of you. Interestingly, the ghosts of the Nether Ghost Realm particularly like sour fruits like plums. Thus, those among the ghosts who practice wood attribute methods had modified such fruits to make them even more sour. As a result, the plum tea, a specialty of the Nether Ghost Realm, is much more sour than plums from other realms. Kim Young-hoon, with a face that seems to say, "How sour can it be?" takes a sip of the plum tea and disappears in a flash of gold, reappearing shortly after. It seems he had gone outside the Twilight Domain to spit out the tea. I'll just have some water. After seeing Kim Young-hoon's reaction, the others pour honey into their tea generously before drinking it. I order just honey tea instead of plum tea myself, and after lightening the mood after everyone has taken a sip, we begin the meeting. First, I would like to hear about the reason the Buk Hyung fleet invaded our Twilight Domain. Although I heard the reason last night, it's good to hear it officially again. Buk Hyung-hwa points calmly at Seo Ran and explains. First, we deeply apologize for the Buk Hyung fleet's involvement in the destruction of the Twilight Domain. However, I would like to clarify that there was a significant misunderstanding regarding our reasons for coming here. We hastily concluded that Seo Ran, one of our comrades and a member of the Buk Hyung fleet's leadership, was being held here, leading us to enter without considering the consequences. Once again, we sincerely apologize. She bows her head deeply, expressing sincere regret. I accept your apology. However, merely a verbal apology alone won't suffice. Yes, you are right. Therefore, after internal discussions, the Buk Hyung fleet proposes. Despite her words, we already discussed everything amongst ourselves the night before. The Buk Hyung fleet will be affiliated with the Wuji Religious Order for 1,000 years as mercenaries to compensate for the damages. Oh, very well, excellent. However, we also have some conditions. Buk Hyung-hwa presents the documents she discussed with Kim Young-hoon, Seo Ran, and Shi-ho in our presence yesterday. The document outlines terms to prevent any unfavorable treatment, unilateral discrimination, or termination of the contract without notice. Of course, given that Kim Young-hoon was originally one of our colleagues, such concerns are unnecessary. I sign the clauses with a smile, and the Buk Hyung fleet side indicates they will return to their sea domain to discuss with Song Jin before signing. I laugh heartily and grant permission. After all, Song Jin only acted out of a minor misunderstanding, thinking Seo Ran was threatened. He also owes me a favor, so he will surely agree. Moreover, Song Jin and Seo Ran's current goal is related to Seo Atrial, so they will naturally have to ally with me who opposes Seo Atrial. In this way, I can naturally rejoin forces with the Baekhyang fleet, including my old comrades Kim Young-hoon, Song Jin, Seo Ran, and Baekhyang Hwa. Thus, the Baekhyang fleet joins the Wuji religious order, and I call Yeon Jin before them. Yeon Jin, have you perhaps re-established contact with Yeon Wei? Yeon Jin nods at my question. Yes, my ancestor has recently sent a part of her split soul to me again. Good in that case. Wu Weng. I infuse Yeon Jin's upper dantian with my consciousness using the wonderfully mysterious innate heart canon, allowing Yeon Wei to emerge from Yeon Jin's consciousness. Shortly after, Yeon Wei opens her eyes through Yeon Jin's body and looks around, sighing. I've already heard of it while inside Yeon Jin's body, so we're in the ancient force realm. Yes, that's how it turned out. Haya. Yeon Wei sits down, pressing her temples as if she has a headache. After informing Yeon Wei that we have joined forces with the Baekhyang fleet, a power established here, I ask her two questions. For now, there are two things I want to ask Senior about. The first is regarding the health axis now that we are in the ancient force realm. Yeon Wei sighs before starting to explain. Since it's their first time hearing about the 5 blessings axes, Baekhyang Hwa, and Shiho listen with great curiosity. Well, as you already know, building an axis here in the ancient force realm is not much different from doing it in the nether ghost realm. However, there is a difference in the void spirit pond here. She continues her explanation. There is no void spirit pond in the ancient force realm. The void spirit pond is originally a small hole connected to a dimension surface, but the ancient force realm has no such holes. The deep sea of the ancient force realm envelops the entire realm like scale armor, resulting in no void spirit ponds being present in this world. The deep sea envelops the world like armor. The deep sea of the ancient force realm, suddenly, reminds me of the clear scale armor. However, there are indeed people who ascend, and there are ways to build an axis. The most notable example is the supervisory Jade. Supervisory Jade. I recall the Jade I received from Seo Ran before. Certainly, the supervisory Jade allows a strand of consciousness to descend to the lower realms. Most of the islands in the sea domains of the ancient force realm are mostly large chunks of ancient stone. Occasionally, under the pressure of heaven and earth spiritual energy, unique stones are formed within these ancient stone veins. These are the supervisory Jades. Seo Ran appears to be hearing about this for the first time as well, listening with fascination. The supervisory Jade is a device that allows a strand of consciousness to descend to the lower realms. If you collect hundreds or thousands of such supervisory Jades and refine them through compression, they are reborn as a new ore called salt crystal, Chinese letter. Salt crystal. Yes. Honestly, even someone at the integration stage might not know about this unless they are the palace lord of a sea domain. The transparent supervisory Jade under pressure mixes with many other supervisory Jades, turning snow white like salt and gaining new abilities. Unlike the supervisory Jade, which only allows a single consciousness to descend, a salt crystal can send dozens of strands of consciousness, and can also be used as the core for the flying immortal formation that acts as a flying immortal platform. I see. I'm amazed by the wondrous properties of salt crystal. It functions just like a void spirit pond, but as an ore, can it be used in other realms? Haha, you want to carry solid void spirit ponds to other middle realms. Sorry, but salt crystals are effective only in the ancient force realm. If you use it elsewhere, it instead acts like an ancient force pathway that returns you to the ancient force realm instead of descending to the lower realms. I see. I click my tongue in disappointment. However, the fact salt crystals can't be used in other realms does not diminish its value. According to her, salt crystals are the only way to build an axis in the ancient force realm. So where does one usually find salt crystals? Typically, supervisory Jades are born 1 or 2 at a time in islands with dense ancient stone veins. But to gather hundreds or thousands of them to make a salt crystal, one almost always needs to be the palace lord of a sea domain. Of course, it's not easy for even palace lords to make, so there are those that don't have it. The proportion of palace lords with a salt crystal is about half. Finishing her explanation, Yeon Wei turns her gaze towards the Baekhyang fleet. Didn't you say your Baekhyang fleet conquered 3 sea domains? Haven't you found any salt crystals? At her words, Kim Young-hoon makes a troubled face. We saw salt crystals in 2 of the 3 sea domains we conquered. 2. However, the palace lords of those 2 sea domains fled with the salt crystals in their possession, so we missed them. At that time, we didn't realize how valuable they were. Taku. Yeon-wei lightly taps her forehead and sighs softly. Well, it's no wonder. If you have a salt crystal, you can set up a flying immortal formation to recruit talents from the lower realms and establish your own force again. For the palace lords, it's as important as their lives. She clicks her tongue and sighs softly before asking me. You can only build the health axis if we have a salt crystal, so if you don't have one, you need to find a way to get one no matter what. Understood, and the second question is, how do we leave the ancient force realm? As I speak, I lightly distort the space with attraction force. Tuang. I use attraction force to create a hole in the void and try to extend my hand out of the dimension. However, unlike when I entered, my hand is rebounded back into the ancient force realm. Seeing this, Yeon-wei speaks. The ancient force realm is surrounded by layers of deep sea that emit attraction force. Therefore, those with entry qualifications are drawn into the ancient force realm by this force. Once inside, they must break through all of the deep sea's attraction force to leave, making leaving much harder than entering. So it's like the Azure Heaven creation sect. Oh Hyun-seok makes a perfect analogy that's easy to understand, and I understand immediately. But since Senior obtained the health axis and returned, there must be a way to escape. Correct. First, you can escape from the shallow depths of the deep sea if you know how to use attraction force and have coordinates at the surface. Kim Yeon nods at those words. Escaping the ancient force realm is similar to escaping the shallow depths. With immense attraction force and another attraction force pulling from outside, you can leave. Back then, I escaped the ancient force realm through the golden divine heavenly thunder sect, but it will be difficult for you now. Both Jeon Myung-hoon and I wear bitter expressions at those words. The Grand Cultivator Association will probably not help me either. Even if I, the one they accuse as a heart tribe spy, were to ask them for help, they will probably do nothing but wish me a happy life. Is it possible to open a side path within the ancient force realm? However, she shakes her head at my words. If that were possible, the Black Ghost Valley would have established a branch here. It's possible to enter through a side path, but impossible to open one to leave. The deep sea prevents the formation of side paths. The ancient force realm is the only middle realm where the Black Ghost Valley couldn't establish a foothold. Then Seo-ran, looking at Yeon-wei as if she's talking nonsense, speaks. That's not true. Yeon-wei frowns at Seo-ran, then is startled upon seeing him in the black robes of Black Ghost Valley. What is this? There wasn't a Black Ghost Palace in my time. Haha, my master and I founded a branch here over 200 years ago. Ek. Yeon-wei, flustered, bursts into anger. That's not the point. How dare you interrupt an elder? Be quiet. Seo-ran closes his mouth and steps back at Yeon-wei's rebuke. Well, anyway, it's extremely difficult to leave the ancient force realm. Even grand cultivators and demon kings need external help to have a 50% chance of escaping. The other 50% of the time, the result is failing and becoming lost in the deep sea. I immediately cancel my plan to send Jeon Myung-hoon, an integration stage cultivator, to try and pull us out. So, Senior, are you saying we can't leave the ancient force realm right now? Well, for now, yes, but wait 2,000 to 3,000 years. By then, I'll have ascended a few people in the head realm golden divine heavenly thunder and risen them to the 4-axis stage. Then they can pull you out. In other words, there's no way but to wait. No, it's not even certain that Yeon-wei will have raised cultivators at the heavenly being stage in the golden divine heavenly thunder sect. The head realm has already become barren due to mass ascensions. Even with Yeon-wei's grand efforts, it's likely they will only reach the heavenly being stage. They won't reach the 4-axis stage like Jin Byuk-ho, Hyo-gwak, or Azure Tiger Saint immediately after ascension. So, it could be at least 2,000 to 3,000 years at best, and 5,000 to 6,000 years at worst. I sigh deeply. A regular cultivator might be able to wait, but it's too long for me. In just 1,000 years, Kang Min-hee will transform 1/50th of the bright cold realm stable realm into something like the nether ghost realm, and the Mad Lord will reach the quasi-star shattering stage. Jang Ik will also return and kill Kang Min-hee. That can't be allowed. Isn't there a faster way? There is. By using the forbidden technique created by the founder Golden Divine, you can combine the soul and flesh of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect disciples into a monster called Thunder Beast, Chinese letter. Though it has no intelligence, in its initial immature state, it possesses the attraction force of a 4-axis stage monster. If I take control of the Thunder Beast's body and ascend, I can pull you all out to the bright cold realm within a month. It's an obvious question, but the disciples merged into the Thunder Beast cannot be reverted, right? That's correct. Jian Myonghun glares at Yon Wei and asks, Ancestor, you wouldn't be considering such a thing, would you? Am I crazy? Even the founder only used that dreadful forbidden technique 5 times in his life. After using it, he even decreed, unless I personally permit it, this forbidden technique must never be used again. So no, I can't do such a thing. That's a relief. I say. If Yon Wei had considered it, I would have had Kim Young-hoon's avatar in the head realm kill Yon Wei to stop it, so it's a pointless method anyway. Can't we descend to the lower realms through the flying immortal formation made with the salt crystal, and then ascend again? Oh, if you descend to the lower realms with a salt crystal, you are guaranteed to ascend back to the ancient force realm. Who? I sigh again. This won't do. For now, I'll try to contact the Grand Cultivator Association of the Human Race Grand Alliance. If necessary, it's time to even undergo verification by insulting Jiang Ix's ideology to return. I have to return, save Kang Minhee, and somehow seal off Coh Real and Oh Hai Seo before Coh Real finds his eye again. I ask Yon Wei, aside from escaping, is there a way to contact other dimensions? Contacting itself isn't difficult. You use an artifact called a supervisory mirror. It's made from supervisory jade, and it allows you to send your will to other worlds you've visited and are connected to through attraction force. It also has a function like voice transmission to communicate with known individuals. Where can I usually get a supervisory mirror? She looks at Buck Hyang HWA and her party. Usually, lords of sea domains have it. Ask if they obtained one while conquering a sea domain. Though the supervisory mirror is rare, it's not as rare as salt crystals, so they probably didn't destroy it. But Kim Young-hoon smiles awkwardly at those words. A palace lord seemed to be requesting support using the mirrors, so I smashed them all and threw them into the deep sea. If I hadn't blocked their requests for support, we would have had a hard time. I sigh softly. There's only one way left. Is there anyone out there? Bring Yuk Yo here. We need both the salt crystals and the supervisory mirror, and since both are in the hands of palace lords, it makes sense to meet one nearby. To meet the ruler of the Weijiang Sea domain. To meet the governing dragon palace lord, Yuk Rin, I call for his daughter, Yuk Yo. Are you saying you'll send me back to my father? Yuk Yo, with a blank expression, kneels before me under Shiho's glare and asks. Yes, I plan to return you and the hostages from governing dragon palace, and after receiving some compensation, establish friendly relations. Despite being a coy, she gapes like a goldfish. Kim Young-hoon, and I read her intent. She's only thinking about escaping. However, I have no intention of letting Yuk Yo go. I don't know what kind of trouble this scoundrel fraudster of a carp caused to be on bad terms with the governing dragon palace lord, but judging from her actions, it's likely to be her fault rather than the governing dragon palace lord's. The reason we even ended up hostile to the governing dragon palace in the first place is because Yuk Yo had stolen Seo Ran's face and got caught by me. Governing Dragon Palace misunderstood and tried to rescue her, leading to the current conflict between us. I plan to return this troublesome koi to Governing Dragon Palace and seek reconciliation. I'm saying this just in case, but don't even think about escaping. As you know, our order has plenty of people to watch over you, and plenty of experts who can capture not nascent souls, but even heavenly being cultivators without a scratch. Yes, I understand, I will follow. Yuk Yo bows her head to me, despite showing her true, completely different thoughts through her intent. Shiho, seeing this, glares at her. From what I see, that fish girl is certainly planning to escape again, senior. Therefore, we should lock her up in the Bukhyang fleet, where I, who knows her character well, can personally keep an eye on her. Eek. Yuk Yo shivers and glances at me, nervously upon hearing Shiho's words. I nod and speak. Fine, however. While she will be left with the Bukhyang fleet, The ones who monitor her will be from our side. If I leave her to Shiho, Yuk-Yo might end up as sashimi before we can return her to Governing Dragon Palace. Surveillance and escort personnel are necessary. And Yuk-Yo, you must have a way to contact the Governing Dragon Palace, correct? You are a princess after all. I don't have a means of contacting them from my side. However, my father has placed a surveillance spell on my core. He will notice if my life is threatened. Ahem. Surprisingly, it doesn't seem like she is lying about not having a means of contact. As I ponder how to contact them, Kim Young-hoon speaks up. I can go and ask for their opinion. How about that? Oh, there was that method as well. Please do. Good. Flash. Kim Young-hoon vanishes in a flash of light. Shortly after, he returns and places a small crystal orb before me. The Governing Dragon Palace Lord gave me a linked magic artifact. Think of it as a video call. Before Kim Young-hoon even finishes speaking, the crystal orb emits light, revealing a dignified middle-aged man seated on a throne decorated with colorful coral. He wears an orange dragon robe made of scales, and on his belly, a dragon with a long beard is drawn. Are you the cult leader of the Wuji religious order that visited the Weijiangxi domain? Greetings. This seat is the Governing Dragon Palace Lord Yuk-Rin. Nice to meet you for the first time, Governing Dragon Palace Lord. I am the Wuji religious order cult leader, Wuji Ghost King, Seo Yun-Hyan. Yes, I heard from the Conqueror King's comrade that you wish to establish friendly relations with my palace and return my daughter and subordinates. That's right. While there was a bit of an unpleasant incident, it seems to have been a misunderstanding. I wish to resolve things peacefully. I speak to this point, and then observe him cautiously just in case. As it's hard to see his intent and heart essence through this video call magic artifact, it's difficult to discern his true thoughts. He might take it as an insult and become even more enraged, sending his forces. Those who reach the integration stage have immense pride, and such a reaction is highly likely. However, Governing Dragon Palace Yuk-Rin bursts into laughter the next moment. Haha, good. I always welcome building relations with heroes like thee. Come to Governing Dragon Palace. I shall prepare a banquet. I am thankful for taking care of my daughter. Through this incident, it seems I will need to clear up some misunderstandings with her through the cult leader's help. Ho ho. As he speaks, Yuk-Rin casts a cold glance at Yuk-Yo, who is kneeling behind. Though his eyes are cold, he speaks to her in a warm voice. My daughter, it's been a while since I've seen you. This father has found a good husband for you, so return through this incident and get married with the blessings of Governing Dragon Palace. She doesn't respond, and Yuk-Rin doesn't seem to expect an answer as he shifts his gaze away from her. Yuk-Yo's intent becomes noticeably darker with incredible fear upon receiving her father's gaze. Their relationship seems to be more than just a misunderstanding. However, I have no reason to intervene in Yuk-Yo's family matters. Did she say she was engaged to the pirate captain of the Fighting Ghost race? It seems to be the integration stage Fighting Ghost who fought Jian Myeong-hoon when he invaded us. Although he appeared to have died from my great mountain-splitting emperor technique, I saw his soul move through the plane of soul, so he must have revived. Unless his cultivation has severely declined, Yuk-Yo's fiancé is likely still that pirate captain. After exchanging a few polite words with the Governing Dragon Palace Lord, I turn off the communication magic artifact. Summon the 13th Guardian Ghost King, Baek-rin. I call for Baek-rin and order him to place Yuk-Yo on one of the Baekhyang fleet ships and monitor her. Then the Twilight Domain sets out for Governing Dragon Palace. Several days pass. Kagagugu. I arrive at the center of the Weijiangxi domain, on Governing Dragon Island, where the Governing Dragon Palace is located. Ho is that Governing Dragon Island. Governing Dragon Island, where Governing Dragon Palace is situated, is a sky island covered with countless corals. Like the Twilight Domain, Governing Dragon Island floats in the sky, solemnly overlooking the Weijiangxi domain below. Kagagugu. Me, the Wuji religious order's law protectors, all the guardian ghost kings, along with the key members of the Baekhyang fleet, gather at the edge of the Twilight Domain. Kuang. Soon, the edges of the Twilight Domain meet the edges of the Governing Dragon Island. Governing Dragon Palace, Governing Dragon Palace, standing in the center of Governing Dragon Island, is a citadel built from the bones of countless demon beasts. Indeed, the flesh and bones of the demon race that had reached a certain cultivation are inherently tougher than most ores and imbued with spiritual energy, so building a fortress from them isn't a bad idea. Shortly after, the turtle that attacked us previously walks up to the front of the Twilight Domain. Our governing dragon palace welcomes the esteemed guests of the Wuji religious order. Please come in. The turtle, unable to meet my eyes, bows before me. Then it grows larger, using its demon ability to create seats on its back for us to ride. I will escort you to the governing dragon palace. Please board. We silently climb onto the turtle's back. Yukyo looks like she wants to flee immediately, but with Beak Rin constantly monitoring her under my orders, she can't escape. The turtle swims through the heaven and earth spiritual energy in the air as if it were water, heading towards the governing dragon palace. Kagagugu. The doors of governing dragon palace open, and I look up at it. Usually, those in high positions in the cultivation world have powerful formations set up in their residences. Even if one has high cultivation, their combat power doesn't always correspond directly. There are indeed monsters like myself who can exert power several levels above their realm. Therefore, those lacking confidence in their combat power, or with many people to protect typically, have stronger and more dangerous formations in their main residences. However, despite being a place where an integration stage demon king resides, the governing dragon palace only has a basic barrier at the nascent soul level. This indicates that the governing dragon palace lord is either confident in his own strength or has nothing precious to protect. We ride on the turtle into the inner depth of governing dragon palace, all the way to the audience chamber of the governing dragon palace lord. After a while, Kagagugu, we arrive in front of the governing dragon palace lord, Yuk Rin, who is seated in the audience chamber. Yuk Rin laughs heartily, rising from his throne to greet us. I warmly welcome thee, cult leader. I am pleased as well, palace lord. I dismount from the turtle and exchange greetings with him. However, I keep a certain distance after observing his heart essence. A greedy, suspicious, and cunning person. The governing dragon palace lord's heart essence is like a swamp filled with thorny vines. At the same time, the energy I sense from him is sufficient to rival the leader of the human race Grand Alliance, Jun Yi, though not as powerful as Hyun Eum. Of course, I'm not too worried since this level of power is no longer a major concern for me, but he is definitely someone who would be willing to betray his allies at any moment. I should only take what I need to take and not get too close. After some superficial pleasantries, we proceed to the banquet hall with Yuk Rin. Yuk Rin doesn't even make eye contact with Yuk Yo. He casually gestures to his subordinates of the governing dragon palace, who then take Yuk Yo away, dragging her somewhere. Haha, as I wasn't sure what to prepare for a distinguished ghostly creature of the human race, I just prepared some sour dishes that I heard ghostly creatures enjoy. Splendid, I will eat them gratefully. My tongue tingles, looking at the table full of plum dishes. The guardian ghost kings who are ghosts all seem to be drooling, and Yon Wei also smacks her lips, seemingly enjoying the sour food. While dining with the palace lord, we exchange superficial polite courtesies. Ho ho, you've raised your daughter splendidly. Thanks to her insight, we've received much help since coming to the ancient force realm. Haha, I'm so embarrassed I want to crawl into a shrimp hole. I was more worried my daughter might have caused some trouble. There was no such thing. Ho ho. With her heart so beautiful, her fiancé seems to be a person of many blessings. In truth, it's only Yuk Yo's behavior that's too much of a scoundrel. Her heart essence itself isn't on the sinister side like Yuk Rin's. For a scam artist, her heart essence is quite pretty and pure. Praising her heart as I see it, I breach the subject, hoping to get introduced to Jin Mayol, the pirate captain of the fighting ghost race, who is supposed to marry Yuk Yo. That guy, I didn't get a good look at him, but he definitely reached the treading heavens stage. I'm interested as a martial artist, and curious about his connection with the Heart Tribe fighting ghost race that Seo Lee saw in the storage scroll of Lofty Dragon True Person. According to Kim Young-hoon, he only managed to steal his treasured weapon and couldn't kill him. He must possess something extraordinary. Moreover, since he roamed the ancient force realm as the pirate captain of the fighting ghost race for thousands of years, forming a relationship with him to gather information will be beneficial. However, in response to my statement said in hopes of being introduced to the pirate captain, an astonishing statement suddenly bursts from Yuk Rin's mouth. Haha, that's definitely right. Though she is my daughter, she is truly a virtuous child. Since we're on the topic, what does the cult leader think of my daughter? This bastard, just what is he trying to push onto me? // Discord https://dsc gg/wetread. Link to donations in the Discord. Chapter 365, Holding Hands 2. Upon Yuk Rin's words, several members of the Wuji religious order tremble. Among them, Beek Rin trembles so much with rage that his jaw quivers. It seems as if at any moment he might burst out with, "How dare you speak such nonsense?" He probably would have done so if his opponent isn't at the integration stage. I laughed softly for a moment, pondering how to politely decline this proposal. "I'm sorry, but this cult leader has no intention of taking a concubine at the time." "Oh, is that so? That's unfortunate." To my great relief, Yuk Rin, feeling a twinge of conscience himself, does not press further. Instead, he smiles kindly and explains his reasons. "In truth, the reason this palace lord invited fellow distinguished noble and your order here was to propose an alliance. There aren't many alliances as strong as that formed by blood, so I intended to propose a marriage alliance. But it seems that's not possible." "Ho, an alliance, you say? Why would you wish to form an alliance with us? Is it not so very obvious? While I am the ruler of a sea domain, for nearly 200 years, I've heard countless tales of the Conqueror fleet's prestige. And that very Conqueror fleet is affiliated with your order as mercenaries. Wanting to join the strong is something natural for living beings." "Haha, that's quite flattering, but I fear that our order might only cause trouble for the governing dragon palace." When I politely decline, Yuk Rin laughs heartily once again. It seems the cult leader finds the idea of joining forces with this Yuk uncomfortable. Well, to be honest, it is the truth that there are no benefits for your order even if you form a relationship with our palace. How about this then? Tang. When he snaps his fingers, attractive force envelops the area. The entire governing dragon island is cut off from the outside. While it can be seen as merely preventing surveillance, it can also mean he intends to attack us, making everyone tense up and watch him warily. However, Yuk Rin does not attack us. He merely casts a few more spells, forming a barrier covering the entire governing dragon palace and a separate barrier isolating our very location. After employing these multiple layers of concealment techniques to block external gazes, he speaks in a secretive voice. "Originally, I intended to discuss this after forming an alliance, but I will propose it to you first." "A proposal?" "Yes. Since it's been a few days since you arrived in the ancient force realm, I believe you've grasped the situation here." "That's right, a world submerged in an ocean of destroyed worlds. It is indeed fascinating." "Haha, as expected, it must seem that way to those from other dimensions. Well, the crucial point is this. There's a high chance of obtaining the relics of destroyed worlds when diving into the deep sea." "Indeed." The ancient force realm, aside from the risk of getting lost or encountering deep-sea monsters, is a world of endless possibilities. The ancient force realm is literally a collection of destroyed worlds, and as he says, there are countless opportunities to obtain treasures from the remnants of those destroyed worlds. Of course, it's just a possibility. Among the countless dimensional remnants, finding a proper relic is only feasible in the dimensions at the very depths of the deep sea. Even then, re-entering a dimension one has previously entered is not simple. This is because, just like the sea of other worlds filled with water, the deep sea of the ancient force realm has dimensions flowing endlessly like water. So, even if you happen to enter a dimension filled with many treasures, it's purely luck as to whether you can enter that dimension again next time. I've heard as such. Therefore, even if one accidentally stumbles upon a dimension rich in treasures, it's common to come back with trivial items due to being unable to properly explore the dimension. However, deep sea islands, Chinese letter, are different. Upon hearing his words, Buk-hyang Hwa, Kim Young-hoon, and the other members of the Buk-hyang fleet appear greatly surprised. Buk-hyang Hwa, astonished, asks, "Is the governing dragon palace lord saying he knows the location of a deep-sea island?" "That's correct. Though the Conqueror King has ruled over a couple sea domains, it seems she has not heard of a deep-sea island's location." Curious, I ask, "What exactly are these deep-sea islands?" In response to my question, Yonwei explains, "Cult leader, as the name suggests, a deep-sea island is an island located in the deep sea. Generally, most islands in the ancient force realm are fixed in place, floating on the surface of the deep sea. However, a deep sea island is fixed within the deep sea itself. Ho, astonishing. So Palace Lord Yuck's words mean. Yes, that's correct. This Palace Lord knows the location of a deep sea island. In fact, only a few among the countless Palace Lords of this ancient force realm know of one. Once discovered, the deep sea island can be calmly explored and constantly challenged to continually obtain endless treasures. If one can fully possess it, they can turn it into the safest treasure vault known only to themselves. Yuck Rin speaks with a subtle expression. To be frank, as the ruler of the Jiangxi domain, I have a general grasp of all happenings across the domain. I watched your battles from afar. Oh, the power distinguished noble used is crucial for conquering the deep-sea island I discovered. Currently, the barrier surrounding the deep-sea island can only be easily penetrated using distinguished noble's power. In other words, he needs my help to penetrate the barrier of the deep-sea island. This is somewhat similar to Seo Ran's proposal. A long time ago, Seo Ran previously sought my help to pass through the barrier of the Nether crossing ship. And Seo Ran planned to betray me, but had a change of heart. I glance at Seo Ran, and he gives me a puzzled look when our eyes meet. I shift my gaze back to Yuck Rin. Although there are many treasures said to be on a deep-sea island, there's no guarantee that they will be beneficial to our order, is there? On a previous visit to the deep-sea island, I saw numerous spiritual elixirs in book form written in the language of ghostly creatures, all lined up on the shelves of a library within the island. Wowung! Yuck Rin takes out a small ore from his sleeve and gently taps it, causing a holographic image to emerge from the ore. My eyes widen in surprise. Inside a dark library. On one of the bookshelves, there are countless books titled in the Netherworld language, such as Ritual Worship Scripture of Wealth Virtue, Ritual Worship Scripture of Longevity Virtue, and Ritual Worship Scripture of Love of Virtue. Each shelf is filled with numerous copies of a single type of book, except for one empty shelf. That empty shelf likely contained the Ritual Worship Scripture of Health Virtue. Given that you already built part of the 5 blessings axes and have some understanding of them, let me explain. In the middle realms, if such axes corresponding to a realm are collected like such and not used properly, they get reabsorbed by the corresponding realm. The books likely dissolved into the ancient force realm. The governing dragon palace does not need such axes. I, for one, am at the integration stage and have no need for more axes. Additionally, having more people with such axes would only threaten my position as the ruler of the Jiangxi domain. However, considering that the relationship between the cult leader and the subordinates of the order does not seem to be that of a hierarchical structure, is this not an opportunity to get your hands on 4-axis stage forces armed with the 5 blessings axes all at once? He speaks to me with a subtle expression. Most importantly, as someone who is building the 5 blessings axes, the cult leader must know how difficult it is to obtain the love of virtue axis, the most difficult axis of axes, does he not? Haha, if you help this palace lord, I'm willing to give you the entire library. Of course, I don't know what other treasures might be inside, but any treasure you find will be yours. This palace lord only needs to obtain 2 specific items from the interior. I look at the holographic image of the library. It's real. Yuck Rin isn't lying about anything regarding the deep sea island. The existence of such an island, the need for my help to enter it, and the abundance of ritual worship scriptures to build the 5 blessings axes within that island, all of it is entirely true. If so, it is only right to accept immediately. With Yon Wei's explanation, not only I and the senior members of the Wuji religious order, but also the senior members of the Bukhyang fleet now understood the significance of the 5 blessings axes and the treasures containing such axes. Everyone holds their breath in awe. However, I exchange glances with Kim Young-hoon. Suspicious. But it seems Yuck Rin is aware of my concern about betrayal, as he immediately presents something black in front of us. It's a contract. I read the contract he handed over. The paper contains the details of an alliance between the Wuji religious order and the governing dragon palace, written in the language of the demon race. This contract is no ordinary document. I gaze at the material of the contract, which is made of some unknown leather with gleaming eyes. Especially Bukhyang Wa, who seems to recognize something, shows a startled expression as she looks at the contract. Does the Conqueror King know about this? I turn to her and ask, while Yuk Rin chuckles and says, "Haha, this seat will explain. This contract is made from a material called black ancient paper, which is rarely found in the deep sea of the ancient force realm. To be precise, it's not a genuine black ancient paper, but a replica. However, even a replica holds the same functions as a genuine one. A contract written on black ancient paper allows for a higher existence to act as a mediator, ensuring the contract's effectiveness as long as that existence is alive. The higher mediator is. The being registered on this black ancient paper is none other than Sacred Master He Lin of the ancient force realm. The Sacred Master guarantees our alliance." Ho! I carefully examined the alliance contract. Unlike the scammer Yuk Yo, the black ancient paper presented by Yuk Rin doesn't contain any particularly disadvantageous clauses for us. The contract itself is rather lenient. It mostly prohibits unilateral betrayal and requires mutual protection in case of a crisis. There are no additional clauses in fine print, nor are there any other papers attached to the contract. There is really nothing suspicious about it. If there is something suspicious, it's just one thing. This guy, governing Dragon Palace, Lord Yuk Rin. It's just him. Is he thinking of stabbing me in the back? While I didn't notice through the video call magic artifact, meeting him in person makes it clear. As if he's scared people won't recognize him as Yuk Yo's father, he is full of wriggling intent with the desire to definitely scam me. I glance at the jade prayer beads on Yuk Rin's arm. A magic artifact to block the eyes of the Heart Tribe. I had seen something similar from Seo Atrial before. It seems it was prepared to block the eyes of the fighting ghost race pirate captain, but it isn't sufficient to block the eyes of me or Kim Young-hoon, allowing me to read everything. Kim Young-hoon, reading the bastard's hidden intentions, asks me in heart language, would it be right to blow his head off? Twitch. Although Yuk Rin can't detect our heart language, his face tenses slightly as if the heaven and earth spiritual energy is warning him of something suspicious. I chuckle and let my comrades see the entire contract. Our order makes major decisions by consulting with the law protector and our higher-ups, so I ask for your understanding. That's entirely reasonable. While outwardly maintaining a composed expression and comfortable controlling the heaven and earth spiritual energy, I keep a wary eye on Yuk Rin, who only has thoughts on backstabbing me. I ask Buck Hyung-hwa, who seems knowledgeable about black ancient paper. Do you know the differences between a genuine black ancient paper and a replica? There isn't much difference. The replica can only register beings up to a true person as a mediator, while the genuine one can use even true immortals as mediators. The genuine one is extremely valuable, and I've heard that only the Sacred Master possesses one in the ancient force realm. Ho! She examines the black ancient paper in my hand and explains. It doesn't seem like there's any trickery in the contract itself. I show the contract to Buck Hyung-hwa, Kim Young-hoon, Jeon Myo-hoon, Hong Fan, and Yeon Wei, and they all nod in agreement that there is nothing suspicious about the contract itself. The contract's content is indeed just a prohibition of betrayal and a mutual protection treaty, so there's no way to be deceived solely by this contract. But I have no choice but to contemplate. Even if the contract is fine, if the person making the contract is a scammer, it's bound to be a scam contract. Do you have any records that show the entire deep sea island? Here, these are all the records and exploration logs this palace lord made while exploring the deep sea island. Yuk Rin willingly hands me a crystal orb. When he taps the crystal ball, countless illusions containing information about the deep sea island rise in the air. Countless scenes float in the air, seemingly depicting Yuk Rin's memories of exploring the deep sea island. Then I and Buck Hyung-hwa, along with Seo Ran, Song Jin, and Kim Young-hoon, focus on one particular illusion among those that record the entire deep sea island. Twitch. I widen my eyes and stare at the illusion. Does this deep sea island perhaps have a name? He smiles and replies, if you read my exploration log, you'll know that the deep sea island was once called Pinglai Island, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. In front of my eyes appears the deep sea island named Pinglai Island. Pinglai Island is covered by a translucent spherical barrier emitting a pure white light, and at the center of Pinglai Island is a colossal mountain occupying half the island's area. That mountain is a pure white salt mountain. Yuk Rin chuckles, opening his mouth as if to explain something. At that moment, a message talisman flies urgently towards Yuk Rin, Upon receiving it, his face twists in frustration. With a face barely suppressing his anger, he stands up. It's embarrassing to say, but it seems the daughter that distinguished noble escorted back has run away again. As she couldn't have gone far, I will quickly catch her and come back. Haha, I deeply apologize, but please wait a moment. Grinding his teeth, Yuk Rin leaves the room and I speak to Beek Rin. 13th Guardian Ghost King, Sacred Orchid Princess Yuk Yo was originally your responsibility to escort. It would be unseemly for the host to take action personally. Escort Sacred Orchid Princess back together with the governing Dragon Palace Lord. Yes, cult leader. Haha, there's really no need to help, but it's this cult leader's kindness, so please accept it. Thank you very much. Yuk Rin leaves the room, grinding his teeth in shame, and Beek Rin follows him. At least with Beek Rin following, he won't kill his daughter. I felt it from the moment I arrived, but Yuk Rin seems to have no familial affection for Yuk Yo. Judging by the anger in Yuk Rin's intent, there's a chance he might actually kill Yuk Yo. Though she is a scamming, scoundrel coy, she provided us with the basic knowledge of the ancient force realm, so I can't let her just be killed by her father. Soon after, Yuk Rin's presence disappears from governing Dragon Island, and I snap my fingers to take control of the formation Yuk Rin has set up. T.S. Sudan. The wonderfully mysterious innate heart cannon lays the Mad Lord's circuit over the barrier, temporarily creating a space even Yuk Rin can't monitor. Now then, I'd like to hear everyone's opinions. Given the situation, it's best to hold a quick meeting. Buck Hyung Hwa speaks first. There is nothing suspicious about the contract itself. However, Kim Young-hoon frowns and shakes his head. You saw it too, didn't you? Inside that governing Dragon Palace Lord's head, he has nothing but thoughts of backstabbing us. Of course, the reward he offered is real. His words make the faces of the Guardian Ghost Kings present fill with anger. How dare he, attempting to deceive the cult leader? Like father, like daughter. Cult leader, we must destroy governing Dragon Island and turn that palace lord into fish soup. For a while, the Guardian Ghost Kings vent their anger till Hong Fan quietly speaks up. Silence. At Hong Fan's command, the Guardian Ghost Kings all shut their mouths, and he calmly looks at Seo Ran and asks, "Does noble Seo Ran have anything to say?" Seo Ran nods and speaks. Firstly, Senior, as you have also seen, that was a salt mountain, and the energy wave we saw in governing Dragon Palace Lord's memory is undoubtedly the same as the energy wave of Sir Chungmun Ryong. Since Yuk Rin is of the Earth tribe, the illusion based on his memory also includes the flow of heaven and earth spiritual energy. Indeed, it is so. That salt mountain is the same as Chungmun Ryong's. In other words, it's a relic left by the owner of Salt Mountain. Kim Young-hoon nods at Seo Ran's words. As expected, I thought it was related to Chungmun Ryong. It will certainly help in rescuing him. Hong Fan nods and says, "For me, seeing those numerous axes makes me think that bringing them to our order will grant us immense power." That's right. Moreover, there's the ritual worship scripture of love of virtue. The axis of love of virtue is more difficult to obtain than other axes. It's to the point that even Yon Wei has yet to obtain the love of virtue axis. Yon Wei opens her mouth. So the current situation is this. Yuk Rin is very likely to backstab us, but the rewards are too enticing to ignore. Is this not it? That's correct. Then there is a very simple solution. What is it? As I look at Yon Wei with a puzzled expression, she smiles and explains. It is a very fundamental strategy of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect passed down from the times of the founder. The founder said that this method could reveal the true intentions of anyone. Although I show a slightly uneasy look at the words, passed down from the times of the founder, she continues without concern. Right now, at this moment, capture that suspicious fish and implant the ascetic lightning curse banner, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, in his head and torture him. Since you're skilled in curses, you can perform even more diverse tortures. Once captured, continue inflicting pain, and he will reveal all his hidden cards and become very cooperative. What are you waiting for? All Guardian Ghost Kings prepare to conquer governing Dragon Palace. Since that fellow invited us, let us collapse the barrier from the inside, capture his fortress and lay a trap. When he returns, we will capture and torture him. You will. Chapter 366, Holding Hands 3. Join the Discord for chapter updates and important news. Chapter 366, Holding Hands 3. I contemplate with cold eyes. Yon Wei, with her hands on her hips, looks at me with questioning eyes and asks in a small voice. There's no time, see, Yun Hyan. You need to use your specialty to remodel this fortress and create traps, do you not? Usually, I would take Yon Wei's words as mere reference and act in the opposite way. Her actions are largely influenced by Yang Sujin's conduct, and I am the polar opposite of Yang Sujin. But honestly, Yuk Rin, that guy can't be trusted. His blatant scheming for betrayal can't be left unchecked. After some deliberation, I make a quick decision. I won't turn the governing dragon palace into a trap. No, Yunhyan, what do you mean by? There won't be a need to create traps. As expected of the cult leader. Yon Wei, who is about to complain, quickly changes her attitude and cheers upon hearing my words. I stand up and look at Buck Hwa before asking. In the Conqueror King's opinion, can the Conqueror King's fleet subdue the governing dragon palace lord? She ponders for a moment before responding. If the entire fleet was brought here, it would be possible, but with only a third of the fleet's strength, it's difficult. Is that calculation including Kim Young-hoon? Yes, it is. The usual fleet strength is calculated, including the presence of surpassing radiant divine demon Kim Young-hoon. I see. What if we add our order's integration stage 6 Extremes Ghost King? Buck Hwa briefly glances at Jian Myung-hoon, seemingly calculating the total strength. In that case, it's possible, however, to handle the governing dragon palace lord's subordinates, we need someone proficient in fighting multiple enemies. At that, I look at Oh Hyun-seok and Kim Yeon. Both are adept in fighting multiple opponents. Given that Kim Yeon seems to have a slight tension with Buck Hwa, sending Oh Hyun-seok would be. I'll go. Hello? Unexpectedly, Kim Yeon volunteers. I feel uneasy sending this fool alone. It's only right that I help as the older sister. She looks at Buck Hwa with an attitude as if she is going to assist her clumsy younger sibling, and Buck Hwa lets out a snicker as if she finds it absurd. Shouldn't I be the one helping you? Honestly, our fleet's strength surpasses yours. Oh really? Is that why you were caught by me? The two glare at each other, their eyes blazing with hostility. Just a few days ago, it looked like things were getting better. It seems they have reverted to their old ways. Or maybe not. I chuckle wryly, reading the emotions between them. All right, then the volunteering mysterious bizarre ghost king Kim Yeon will support the Buck Hyang fleet. As I stand up and snap my fingers, the barriers across the entire Governing Dragon Island collapse under attraction force. Governing Dragon Island is thrown into chaos. 6 Extremes Ghost King Jian Myung-hoon and mysterious bizarre ghost King Kim Yeon will support the Conqueror King Buck Hyang-hwa's fleet and assist in the Buck Hyang fleet and surpassing radiant divine demons battle to capture the governing dragon palace Lord Yuk Rin alive. Received. It's quite amusing to capture the host as guests, but what else can be done? Now, even if I'm stabbed in the back, it's no longer just my concern. If I am deceived, it would mean the entire Wuji religious order is deceived. Even with the ability to foresee others' hidden intentions, I can't gamble with the order's safety. The risks need to be eliminated in advance. Kagagugu. I raise my momentum and command the ghostly creatures of the Twilight Domain in the language of the Nether Ghost Realm. Occupy it. 18 heads sprout from my shoulders, and my body turns black. Wuva. Uvio. Alia. Countless ghostly creatures howl as they begin to engulf Governing Dragon Island. Kagagugu. Yun, a half-human, half-fish demon beast at the early Chi building stage who lives peacefully on Governing Dragon Island, is collecting clams and returning home as usual. Normally, she would have returned quickly, but today she has to take a long detour around her usual path. This is because today, esteemed guests are visiting Governing Dragon Island, and a public notice has been issued stating that a third-class citizen like her from the half-fish race should not be seen by these distinguished guests. Kyuduk Wujujuduk. Having gathered clams, she sets foot on the ground and begins to transform her body. The half-human, half-fish form of the half-fish race has a unique trait. They can move freely on both land and water without using any special abilities. Her lower body, which was in the form of a fish, transforms into human legs, while her upper body remains that of a fish. Wai Yun, now in her terrestrial form, hums through her fish mouth as she carries the clams and takes the long way home. Although it's a longer journey than usual, it's fine. In fact, it's more peaceful because she can avoid the main road where second-class citizen demon beasts who often pick on her are located. Wai Yun ponders about what to cook for her family with the clams she has collected today. Her village, a settlement of third-class citizens known as the Abandoned Fish Village, is peaceful. Even though her half-fish race is the most discriminated against among the third-class citizens, the village is kind enough to always call upon her family for help when needed and share leftover food. She thinks that Abandoned Fish Village is a truly good place. Kiyawe. Wuwel. Uvio. Suddenly, the entire governing dragon island is covered in dark clouds, and terrifying ghosts begin to fill the sky. Shocked by this bizarre phenomenon, Wai Yun hurriedly runs towards her home. Due to a restraint on flying techniques for anyone below second-class citizens on governing Dragon Island, she is physically incapable of flying. Finally, when Wai Yun reaches her village, she sees it engulfed in flames. Black ghosts and grotesque cursed dolls are setting the village ablaze with ghost fire. Kiyawe. Guaye. Wai Yun, run away. Don't come here. Her parents shout frantically upon seeing her. She drops the clams she gathered today and steps back in shock. Kia, by the cult leader's command. Here, the cult leader has ordered to verify the population and issue identity plaques on governing Dragon Island. Everyone, gather for a moment. Uo, the cult leader, has commanded us to serve with utmost kindness and ensure the residents do not feel anxious. Let's burn down the old village for disinfection and build new structures. Kekekekek, these lowly demon races of the ancient force realm, will show them a taste of the construction techniques of the nether ghost realm. The ghosts, speaking in the incomprehensible language of the nether ghost realm, shriek horrifically as they round up the villagers of Abandoned Fish Village and begin burning down the buildings, constructing something bizarre. Wai Yun flees. The hideous laughter of the ghosts and cursed dolls have completely overturned her peaceful daily life. Filled with utmost terror, she runs with her frail human legs. And then, amidst the bushes, eerie puppet soldiers appear. The cursed dolls with rotating heads shout bizarre words at Wai Yun. Little lady, are you lost? It's dangerous to wander alone, miss. Let us take you to your parents. Where is your home? Kayak. Wai Yun screams and runs again. The cursed dolls shriek in the dreadful language of the nether ghost realm as they chase her. Hey, miss, that's the direction of the deep sea. Come back. Gee, go away, go away. She stumbles at the edge of governing Dragon Island. With tears in her eyes, Wai Yun falls into the deep sea. She then sees countless ships with flags written in the language of the ancient force realm. The flags on the ships read, Wuji Religious Order Subordinate Bukhyang Fleet. I see. The devilish cult from another world and the Conqueror King's Conqueror Fleet. Wai Yun falls into the deep sea, capturing in her eyes the main culprits who have ruined her daily life. The story of how Wai Yun, a half-human, half-fish, falls into the deep-sea island hidden below governing Dragon Palace, where she would later gain fortuitous encounters and become a warrior burning with vengeance against the Wuji religious order, is a tale for another time. Meanwhile, leaving her behind, the Bukhyang fleet sets sail. Kagagugu. Bukhyang Hwa, the commander of the Bukhyang fleet, glances uncomfortably at Kim Yon beside her. Instead of just playing around, why don't you capture the subordinates of the governing Dragon Palace escaping from governing Dragon Island? Oh my, sorry, but it's better to capture them when they regroup later to assist their palace lord. Catching them while they're scattered and escaping now is less effective. Such an excuse, instead of thinking of quickly capturing even one more, is rather disgraceful. I can't hear the words of someone who clung to me, crying wah wah, very well. Bukhyang Hwa's face turns red. I never did that. Okay. Why are you in the commanding room anyway? How is it okay for your memory to become like a carp's when we're going to catch one? Did I not say that just like the last time I broke into your commanding room, the subordinates of governing Dragon Palace can do the same, so I'm here to protect you? That was an exception, and I said no protection was needed. And it's not a carp but a koi. Isn't your intelligence more like a carp's? Kim Yon and Bukhyang Hwa glare at each other, gritting their teeth. Just drive your fleet better, Wawa. Who are you calling Wawa? Don't call me that. Well, I wasn't talking to you but to Wawa, who clung to me crying, Wawa, so why are you taking offense? Didn't you say it wasn't you? Urg. Bak Hwa, with her face flushed red, glares at Kim Yon and eventually focuses on commanding the fleet. Kagagugugu. And a while later, in the vision of Bak Hwa and Kim Yon appears Yuk Rin, wearing a scarlet dragon robe and beak Rin. And also Yuk Yo, whose hair is being grabbed by Yuk Rin. Yuk Rin, holding Yuk Yo by the hair, looks back with an expressionless face. Yuk Yo is covered in blood all over her body, unable to even maintain flight, and hangs from Yuk Rin's grip. Beak Rin looks on, seemingly aghast at the sight. Yuk Rin locks eyes with the Bak Hyung fleet and asks, "The Conqueror King should be enjoying the banquet. Why have you come all the way here? It seems a bit excessive to bring such equipment just for a mere stroll." At those words, from the first Hyang ship of the Bak Hyung fleet, on its bow stands a man in black martial attire. Surpassing radiant divine demon Kim Young-hoon replies, "Haha, I feel quite apologetic to the governing Dragon Palace Lord, but the Bak Hyung fleet and Wuji religious order have just concluded negotiations for us to take over this Jiangxi domain." Ho! However, Yuk Rin isn't particularly surprised by this. Well, I expected this the moment I saw that person's face. He recalls the face of Yon Wei, the military strategist of the Wuji religious order. Though she seems unaware of him, Yuk Rin is well acquainted with her face. About 40,000 years ago, when Yuk Rin just reached the heavenly being stage, the infamous human from the bright cold realm, who turned the ancient force realm upside down, the betrayal king Jin Wei. After learning about the 5 blessings axes from the Black Ghost Palace in the Nether Ghost Realm, she betrayed them and came to the ancient force realm. She then betrayed the faction that taught her about the situation in the ancient force realm, and repeatedly switched sides while building the health axis. Eventually, after fully building her axis, she escaped through her sect in the bright cold realm. I heard she then even betrayed her sect and fiancé. Although her reputation has faded significantly over the past 40,000 years, Yuk Rin clearly remembers her face and notoriety. The crazy human who betrayed my uncle's cherry blossom dragon palace, which was the force that helped her settle in the ancient force realm, and stole 1,000,000 ancient stones before fleeing. Yuk Rin's paternal uncle, Cherry Blossom Dragon Palace Lord Yuk Ung, was already nearing the end of his lifespan and didn't have much time left. He left the world in lingering shock not long after due to her betrayal. If Conqueror King Bak Hwa is known for stabilizing the sea domains after conquering them, Jin Wei is infamous for causing chaos wherever she goes like a loach. Starting from the time when she rampaged to obtain spiritual medicine to boost her fiancé's vitality and captured the 4-axis stage eel race's chieftain, to taking the bear bile of the great bear race's chieftain who helped hide her. Jin Wei, who seemed to live solely for endless schemes, deception, and betrayal, was dubbed the Betrayal King in the ancient force realm. Knowing of the Betrayal King's notorious reputation, Yuk Rin anticipated that the Wuji religious order would eventually betray him. Thus, he prepared to backstab Yon Wei first. But as expected, the human race indeed lives up to their reputation. To think they would corner me like this before I could strike first, and that too, while being a guest I had invited, no less. Yuk Rin's eyes twitch as he addresses Kim Young-hoon. I did not expect the forces of the famed and proud Conqueror King to oppress this palace lord as such. Wasn't the Conqueror fleet known for targeting only tyrannical palace lords? That's correct. Kim Young-hoon nods. Then are you saying this palace lord has committed such tyranny in the Jiangxi domain? That is not the case. What, then are you saying you are oppressing this palace lord without any reason? There is a misunderstanding. While it is true that we oppose tyrannical palace lords, there is one more reason we are opposing the governing dragon palace lord. Golden light begins to emanate from Kim Young-hoon's entire body. That reason is that anyone who tries to oppose us first is unconditionally conquered. The reason we, the Conqueror fleet, have conquered 3 sea domains is not just because of tyranny, but because they threatened us first. And the same goes for you, governing Dragon Place Lord. As Yuk Rin locks eyes with Kim Young-hoon, he realizes something. I see, I've heard much about you, surpassing radiant divine demon. They say you practice a unique method to conceal your aura, but it seems you're of the same kind as the owner of Salt Bone's ship. Salt Bones, Chinese letter ship. The notorious pirate fleet of the ancient Force realm formed by the fighting ghost race and several other brutal races. The flagship of the fighting demon pirate gang. The one who used the rare and precious salt crystals to form the entirety of the Salt Bones ship's keel. The fighting demon pirate gang's captain, Jin Mayol. Yuk Rin caresses his bracelet. Can you read my heart essence even now? I have maximized the capabilities of my magic artifact. Kim Young-hoon draws his sword in silence. Yuk Rin clicks his tongue. You can see it, it seems. You appear superior to that Jin Mayol, was the name of the technique he practiced called fighting steps. But Kim Young-hoon's eyes twitch as if in displeasure. Mine is entirely different from his. He practices fighting steps, while mine is called martial arts. Is it different? Of course, to begin with. Kim Young-hoon lowers his surpassing radiant saber with a look of irritation. That person is not a martial artist. Of course he isn't. That person is of the fighting ghost race. Enough, you won't understand anyway. Just surrender quietly. Huh? Yuk Rin sneers as he begins to envelop his entire body with his domain. Arrogant thing, you dare to oppress this seat. Kagagugugu. Yuk Rin's entire body swells as he transforms into a massive scarlet dragon clad by his domain. Though he manipulates the heaven and earth spiritual energy around him as if agitated, his inner thoughts remain cold and calculating. I've covered my body with my domain and maximized the activation of my magic artifact. No matter how skilled he is in fighting steps, it will be difficult to read my emotions now. As expected, Kim Young-hoon stops reading his intent and begins gathering his fighting energy. Yuk Rin clicks his tongue, his eyes cold despite his seemingly agitated demeanor. Surpassing radiant divine demon Kim Young-hoon, the Bukhyang fleet of the Conqueror King. Moreover, the integration stage grand cultivator who nearly overwhelmed Jin Mayol, along with that human woman who seems unusual. I'm going to lose. He casually throws Yuk Yo aside and spits out a beam of light from his mouth. Kim Young-hoon's golden saber splits Yuk Rin's breath. Watching Kim Young-hoon and Jeon Myo-hoon flying towards him, Yuk Rin ponders. It doesn't matter anyway. I'll let them win today. If I can infiltrate deeper into their ranks, if I can enter Pinglai Island, I will emerge as the ultimate victor. Sign here, Yuk Rin. The Bukhyang fleet capture Yuk Rin alive and present him with the black ancient paper. The original contract terms were entirely revised by Yon Wei. As a result, Yuk Rin, who was supposed to be our ally, had his status reduced to nearly that of a slave. In the end, in front of everyone, he signs the contract that reduces him to a quasi-slave status under the Wuji religious order in the name of Sacred Master He Lin of the ancient Force realm. I question Yuk Rin. Yuk Rin, you consistently hid something from us and tried to backstab us. This cult leader can read heart essence, so reveal what you have been hiding. Hoo-hoo, quite impressive. Are you using a mind-reading technique? It's similar, but let's just say it is. He sighs deeply and tells us the truth. I intended to betray both the Wuji religious order and you. Why? But before I can pursue the reason, Yon Wei shouts beside me. Her intent jumps as if she realizes something about Yuk Rin. Cult leader, there's no need to listen to him. The demon race of the ancient Force realm is infamous for betrayal, deception, and trickery. It's in their nature, so knowing the reason is meaningless. Instead, it's more important to find out how he intended to betray us. Did she suffer a lot in the ancient Force realm before? Following the advice of Yon Wei, who has experience with the ancient Force realm, I change my question. You proposed an alliance through the black ancient paper, so how were you planning to betray us? Yuk Rin grins widely and explains. Once we enter Pinglai Island, the power of the black ancient paper nearly vanishes. Within the island's barrier, countless oaths and contracts lose their effectiveness. So you intended to use Pinglai Island's uniqueness to betray us. Something like that. In that case, I continue the interrogation of Yuk Rin, who is now bound by a slave contract. Wai Yun, the young girl from the half-fish race, stirs and opens her eyes. This is. It's a dark place. Didn't I jump into the deep sea? Contrary to the deep sea formed by dimensions, she finds herself surrounded by real water. The area is filled with salty water. Transforming her lower body into that of a fish, Wai Yun begins to explore. Eventually, she realizes she has fallen into a lake-like place and swims towards its edge. Where is this? At the edge of the lake, she sees a gigantic statue of a sea dragon, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. Translator notes, mysterious ancient paper, black ancient paper. // asterisk. Discord https://dsc gg/wetread. Link to donations in the Discord. Chapter 367, Holding Hands 4. The interrogation of Yuk Rin has concluded. There are two methods Yuk Rin intended to use to betray us. The first is the characteristic that all oaths and contracts disappear upon entering Pinglai Island. The second is another characteristic of Pinglai Island's interior. Truly bizarre. According to Yuk Rin, the interior of Pinglai Island is a kind of massive illusion formation. Upon entering this illusion formation, the internal world of the formation reconstructs to match us, and we become characters within that illusion, only able to explore the formation using the powers and abilities that those characters possess. The power granted to these characters is said to be the power originally held by their race. For me and others, it would be the power of humans. And for Shiho and Yuk Rin, they would undoubtedly gain the power of fox and dragon. In other words, he planned to betray us by using Pinglai Island's inherent characteristic of nullifying all oaths and contracts, and the characteristic of nullifying all powers except the original power held by the respective race, granted by the island's formation. We could have been in quite a predicament. However, even if we were deceived and entered Pinglai Island as he intended, Kim Young-hoon and I might not have been in significant danger. Having everything except our original human powers being nullified and being unable to use any cultivation techniques. We can still use martial arts anyway. Kagagugu. It's currently night in the ancient force realm. Unlike the nether ghost realm, where day and night are distinguished only by the presence or absence of constellations, the ancient force realm has a clear distinction between day and night. A ring-like structure stretches across the sky of the ancient force realm, emitting a light similar to moonlight, creating the atmosphere of a dim and dark night. After conquering governing Dragon Island, we are currently heading to another sea domain to join forces with the Bukhyang fleet, with Yuk Rin captured. I will likely see Songjin soon. Standing at the edge of the Twilight Domain, I turn back after gazing at the night sea of the ancient force realm. The ghosts of the nether ghost realm, more energetic at night than during the day, are now enthusiastically throwing a ghostly feast. Having just returned from volunteer work on governing Dragon Island, everyone seems to feel a sense of fulfillment. As I watch them, I fall into thought. If the condition for fixing my regression point is truly to go to and return from the head realm, should I go once more? The head realm is an extremely terrifying place. Just sensing the presence of the owner of Salt Mountain in that place fills me with immense fear and despair. That world is full of unfathomable malice and ominousness. But if they were to disappear, I can't even imagine how much my heart would ache. It first started as just a religious order to build the longevity axis, but they have now become a part of me. Young. My consciousness sweeps through the Twilight Domain. The ghostly creatures boasting about their volunteering activities on governing Dragon Island and holding a feast. Yon Wei's split soul, temporarily leaving Yon Jin's body, being fervently praised by the guardian ghost kings. Wei Shihan and Eam, while engrossed in making their second generation. Beek Rin tending to Yuk Yo's wounds. Shiho getting a massage from Seo Ran. Jian Myohoon practicing cultivation methods with Yon Jin in a private room. Ohyun Seok training the ghostly creatures who want to become stronger using the Azure Heaven creation sects methods. Kim Yon and Bukhyang HWA drunkenly fighting, pulling each other's hair. It's peaceful, no matter how ominous the head realm may be. If going there again means I can continue to be with them, I will go anytime. After investigating the Salt Mountain on Pinglai Island and finding a way to heal Chingmun Ryo, descend to the head realm and, if possible, fix my regression point. Yes, if I can go to the head realm in this life, let's go again. Resolving myself like so, I look around at the night sea of the ancient force realm. Welwung. The night sea of the ancient force realm is incredibly mysterious. Shue. The sound of the waves crashing echoes. Within that sound, the voices of countless beings can be heard. Simultaneously, beyond the multitude of voices, the entire sea of the ancient force realm faintly glows. Murmur. Above the undulating seawater, countless shadows appear and disappear repeatedly. How long have I been watching this? Yoon Hyun, you shouldn't stare at the deep sea of the ancient force realm for too long at night. Young-hoon Hyung Nim. I turn around to see Kim Young-hoon calling me. He has a bruise around one eye, and his clothes are torn in several places. Chi-I. It seems he is healing himself with a healing talisman. I thought you didn't get hurt while fighting Yuk-rin. Oh, this injury is from Oh Hyun-seok. Pardon? Oh Hyun-seok and I were drinking, and his cultivation method seemed similar to a path I briefly pursued before, so I asked him how he cultivated. Then, the guy offered to train me, and when I told him to go ahead, this crazy bastard tied me to a pillar end. I see. It seems Kim Young-hoon was subjected to the training method of the Great Azure Heaven Creation sect for a while. A Kim Young-hoon of a previous life had once been training in martial arts when he discovered a part of it that was connected to demon beast methods and briefly tried to pursue that path. It seems the Kim Young-hoon of this cycle had also briefly attempted that path. But you didn't beat up Hyun-seok Hyung-nim and escape. It's fine to take a few hits from a close, younger brother. It wouldn't be right to get angry and draw my blade over it, no. Then why when it was me? Because if I don't draw my blade against you, I feel like I might die. Kim Young-hoon laughs heartily, and after his wounds heal due to the talisman, he removes it and places his hand on his saber hilt. You want to go at it again? Haha, my beloved weapons are all broken. If I go against you again, I'll just get beaten up without being able to resist. I'm here for another reason. Belwoon. He draws his saber from the sheath and swings it in the air. He doesn't particularly slash or attack me. There isn't even a hint of killing intent, but for an instant, I see an illusion of the world splitting before my eyes from his swing. While fighting you, I glimpse the next realm. I shudder at his words. There's only one realm Kim Young-hoon could have reached. A second step before the throne, the same realm as Jang-ik. I'm frighteningly startled, but then I think of Kim Young-hoon's trait and chuckle. Then in about 50 years I'll be able to learn from you, Young-hoon Hyung-nim. Well, that's not it. Then in 100 years. Not that either. I can wait a few hundred years. However, Kim Young-hoon seems to become gloomier at my hopeful questions. Hyung-nim. For now. He speaks with a bitter expression. Even with my talent, I'll have to diligently polish and refine this enlightenment for hundreds of years before there's a chance to reach the next realm. Haha, it seems Young-hoon Hyung-nim hasn't yet adapted to the sense of time in the cultivation world. But, he bites his lips and looks at me with desolate eyes. I cannot reach the next realm. Huh? I stare at Kim Young-hoon for a moment before bursting into laughter. Haha. It isn't mockery, but genuine amusement. How many times have I heard Kim Young-hoon say that? Hyung-nim, believe in yourself, you can do it. By now, it's practically a given that Kim Young-hoon will reach the next realm after saying such words. Of course, in the past, Kim Young-hoon was often hindered by his lifespan, but now that he has reached this stage and gained an additional 10,000 years, it's enough. However, Kim Young-hoon's expression does not brighten. Silently, he raises his saber. I watch him for a moment before drawing my colorless glass sword and letting it hang down. Let's just purely compete in martial arts. Sounds good. In the next moment, Kim Young-hoon and I rush at each other, exchanging martial techniques. We both refrain from using excessive internal energy or spiritual power. He and I compete purely by channeling the vital energy that flows through our human bodies into our blades as we contest our skills. As we exchange moves for a while, our movements gradually become more intense. Kim Young-hoon spins from right to left, swinging his saber. The tip of his saber grazes my cheek. My sword slashes upwards from above my right foot, cutting Kim Young-hoon and leaving a vertical scratch beneath his eye. Tadat. Tadadat. Even though we only use the basic vitality of our bodies, the amplification of power is astounding because of our high level of mastery. Kim Young-hoon and I move from one end of the twilight domain to the other in an instant, dancing as if to slice each other's shadows. He's too fast to catch, and I'm too free to hit. As we roam around the entire twilight domain for some time, I suddenly find myself out of the twilight domain and over the vast void, above the night sea of the ancient force realm. Of course, since we can move even by stepping on the void, it's not a problem for our duel. Kagagugu. Before we know it, the twilight domain is passing by us, who are fiercely clashing blades in midair, gradually advancing towards the horizon of the sea domain. Leaving the Weijiang sea domain behind, we head towards the end of the sea domain that looks like an air bubble, towards the wall formed by the dome sky. Tada! As I exchange blows with him for a while, I momentarily lose my balance due to Kim Young-hoon's attack and nearly fall into the deep sea. Chwag. Fortunately, just before falling into the deep sea, I managed to float in the void by enveloping my entire body with the All-Heaven sword. But at that very moment, I see something absurd. Tuwung. A clear sound seems to ring, and Kim Young-hoon stands firmly on top of the deep sea. How are you doing that? It's not that difficult. Since this isn't real water but a type of dimension, just thinking of standing on the dimension makes it easy. And how are you doing that? You just need to stand on the dimension and maintain your balance. I give up understanding and just float near the surface of the deep sea. Round Kim Young-hoon, who is briefly laughing, illusions suddenly appear around him. They are the illusions I saw at the edge of the twilight domain earlier. The faces of the illusions are not clearly visible, just appearing as blurry shadows. However, while looking at the shadows, I suddenly feel a sense of déjà vu. At that moment, Kim Young-hoon points his saber at one of the illusions that approaches him and speaks. The sea of the ancient force realm reflects the past of its target, so sometimes I think of Earth while looking at the night sea. Of course, it's not always the faces I like, which can be annoying at times. I see, this sense of déjà vu is. I realize the source of the déjà vu I feel from the night sea of the ancient force realm. The ancient force realm is reflecting the canvas of myriad forms and connections to me. As Kim Young-hoon aims his saber at the nearby illusion that has briefly approached him, he warns me with a wary look. Be careful. Sometimes deep-sea monsters appear pretending to be ordinary illusions of the ancient force realm. Having warned me, he swings his saber and cuts down the illusion. Surung. The illusion is split and vanishes. The illusion that dissipated around Kim Young-hoon had been wielding something like a whip that emerged from its arm before disappearing. After cutting down the illusion, Kim Young-hoon asks me, "Let me ask you, Seo Yoon-hyun, what do you think martial arts are?" I don't know. It's too vast to simply define, and it's too easy an answer to a difficult guess. That is the meaning of martial arts. Maybe I'm not a martial artist. To me, martial arts are a part of life, but not everything. At the same time, since it's one of my strengths along with the numerous cultivation methods I have learned, I can't confidently say I understand what martial arts truly are. However, Kim Young-hoon grins widely and says, "You are indeed a martial artist, I can guarantee that. Even though I use not only martial arts, but also cultivation methods and demon-beast methods. Well, having seen someone who is truly not a martial artist, I can confidently say you are one." Well, the same illusion that Kim Young-hoon had just cut down rises again and attacks him. Feeling slightly annoyed, he no longer pays any attention to the illusion. The illusion brushes past Kim Young-hoon, and I realize that I have seen the outline of that illusion somewhere before. That man. It's Jin Ma-yeol, the pirate captain of the fighting demon pirates who fought against Jeon Myung-hoon. Kim Young-hoon glances at the illusion and says, "When I first came to the ancient force realm, I fought the pirate captain of a notorious pirate group. Surprisingly, he had been stuck at entering heavens for thousands of years. At first, I thought he was a martial artist, so I tried to treat him with respect. But after a few exchanges, I could tell he is not a martial artist. Not a martial artist. It's a strange thing. That man has certainly entered treading heavens. Perhaps he gained enlightenment after fighting Kim Young-hoon and broke through. Why then does Kim Young-hoon not acknowledge him as a martial artist? That's why I took his weapon. It was too good a blade to be in the hands of someone who isn't a martial artist. The demon saber that fused with my hand and moved as if alive that you destroyed was his. I remember now. Indeed, it was a tough blade, and it took some time to tear it apart. Curious, I ask, why isn't he a martial artist? Yuk Rin even obtained a magic artifact to protect against Jin Ma-yeol's sight, meaning he has perfectly acquired the vision of the Heart Tribe. Moreover, if he reached the integration stage and rose to treading heavens, his efforts must have been indescribable. Why then does Kim Young-hoon not acknowledge him as a martial artist. Kim Young-hoon is silent for a moment, then lifts his saber. I will show you why it's impossible for me to reach the next stage, then you will understand. Tu-wung-tung. He begins to perform a saber dance, stepping on the dimension. The illusions and remnants of the past around him are all cut down by his dance. But strangely, his movements leave no afterimages. Literally, it seems as if Kim Young-hoon exists only in this very moment. It's a metaphysical expression, but it's true. His heaven and earth spiritual energy cannot be read, and his next move cannot be predicted. It's as if his figure cannot be seen at any boundary of history and fate. Existing but not existing in a strange emptiness Chinese letter, his saber dance ends, and I let out a gasp. Though my talent is limited, I can understand as someone who has held a sword for thousands of years. Because of Sir Ching-mun Ryong, you did not name the next realm, right? Well, that's right. But in truth, you have already named it. I quietly utter the name that resonated from his dance just now. First step before the throne. What did Kim Young-hoon name this realm? Is it not seated detachment, standing oblivion? / asterisk. Discord https://dsc gg/wetread. Link to donations in the Discord. Chapter 368, Holding Hands 5. See $HTML null class name // class name /3A0388 lang in suppress hydration warning true children head null children $L10 null ga tracking /ID G3NN66 WSFQK $L11 null intent capture children false $L12 null user data role guest children body. This page could not be found. $div null style $18 children $div null children $style null dangerously set inner HTML //HTML body color #000 background #FFF margin 0 next error H1 border right 1 px solid RGBA 000 3 at media prefers color scheme. Dark body color #FFF background #000 next error H1 border right 1 px solid RGBA 255 3 $H1 null class name next error H1 style $19 children 404 div null style $1A children H2 null style $1B children. This page could not be found. Not found styles null $div null class name BG background children $div null class name flex item center flex call justify center px5 pi4 gap 4 children img null src icon png null / asterisk. Discord https://dsc gg/wetread. Link to donations in the Discord. Chapter 369, Holding Hands 6. Kagagugu. I enter the Black Sea domain and head towards the home of Seo Ran and Song Jin at its center. I make my way towards Black Island. After a while, I can sense a familiar presence. Kagagugu. In the distance, I see a valley that resembles the valley of Black Ghost Valley. It seems that just as Song Jin has renamed this domain, the island that once looked different has also been transformed into the appearance of Black Ghost Valley. But it doesn't have the same ghostly energy as Black Ghost Valley. Of course, this isn't the Nether Ghost Realm, and obtaining such ghostly energy in the Ancient Force Realm is no easy feat. If Seo Ran, who practices the Ghost Path method, reached the 4-axis stage and could control the Dragon Vein, it might have been different, but since Seo Ran's cultivation is lower than even Shiho's, it's meaningless. Kagagung. Soon after, when the Twilight Domain reaches Black Island. Ho! Wowung! A strong suction force begins to emerge from Black Island, starting to suck in the ghostly energy of the Twilight Domain. And from within the Black Island that's absorbing ghostly energy, formation made of ghostly energy seems to arise, amplifying the ghostly energy. Kagagagugu. Soon, living up to its name, Black Island turns into a truly eerie island with an environment perfectly suited for the cultivation of ghostly creatures. Payet. Seo Ran hurries out of his room, wiping sweat from his excited face as he looks down at Black Island. We've arrived at Black Island. Yes, but that formation on Black Island. Oh, that's a formation laid down by my master from one of the formations of Black Ghost Valley. Originally, it was meant to amplify the ghostly energy within the island to aid my cultivation and make my master's body more comfortable. He has a particularly cheerful expression. With this level of ghostly energy. Quagagagak. Suddenly, I sense a massive vortex of ghostly energy at the center of Black Island. That ghostly energy. It's a familiar wave of ghostly energy. Soon after, a familiar ghost emerges from the vortex of ghostly energy. Huh? It's Songjin. He inhales the ghostly energy comfortably, looks at Seo Ran, and then notices me beside him, shuddering slightly. He sighs and speaks. I've heard everything from Seo Ran Sr. Please come in. Haha, calling me Senior. Just call me comfortably. Your joke is too much. Someone of Senior's level must have lived for thousands of years. It was rather disrespectful of me to not recognize Senior in the head realm. Having heard about me from Seo Ran since the incident at Jiangxi domain, Song Jin apparently thinks I'm some old monster who hid his cultivation, and he respectfully bows. Well, if that's what he believes, there's nothing I can do. Since he firmly believes it, nothing I say would change his mind. Well, okay, if you want to treat me that way, do as you please. Anyway, is this Black Island a branch of Black Ghost Palace? Yes, that's correct, Senior. But due to the nature of the ancient force realm, we cannot contact the main sect, so we haven't been officially approved yet. I see. Then does it have maintenance functions like the main sect, the Bright Cold Realms branch, or the Head Realm's Black Ghost Valley? Black Ghost Valley created functions to maintain the Nether crossing ship, even while it's floating in the air, to prepare for the possibility of it being unable to dock at sea. Even if the Nether crossing ship's power source is temporarily halted, the formation of Black Ghost Valley can keep it suspended in the air, recharge its ghostly energy remotely, and perform maintenance. Yes, we have certainly installed such functions on our Black Island. Then that's good. I'd like our Twilight domain to be supported by Black Island for a while. Songjin glances at the Twilight domain and breaks out in a cold sweat. Senior, with all due respect, that landmass is so large compared to the Nether crossing ship. I'm not sure if the function will work. It's fine, it will work sufficiently. Kagagugu. I move the Twilight domain above Black Island and signal to Songjin with my eyes. Songjin sighs as he forms hand seals, and Twilight domain begins to float above Black Island. Hongfan, deactivate Twilight domain's floating formation. I send a voice transmission to Hongfan, and soon he temporarily deactivates the floating formation. Kuang. Then a formation activates across the entire Black Island, lifting 6 translucent shadows towards the Twilight domain. The shadows become more distinct as they rise into the air, transforming into translucent, massive skeletal hands by the time they reach the Twilight domain. The 6 massive skeletal hands shimmer translucently as they support the Twilight domain. Kagaguguk. Of course, due to the weight of the Twilight domain, the skeletal hands appear like they are about to crack, but the Twilight domain is a landmass torn from the mainland of the Nether Ghost Realm. In other words, it's a land imbued with the pure ghostly energy of the Nether Ghost Realm. Tsutzut. Nourished by the ghostly energy of the Nether Ghost Realm, the skeletal hands become even more defined, repairing any cracks and fissures on their arms and properly supporting the Twilight domain. Songjin observes this scene for a moment before clearing his throat. Senior, originally 3 of these hands support the Nether crossing ship, while the other 3 are used for its maintenance, but now they're all being used to support your territory, making maintenance impossible. It's fine, we'll handle the maintenance of Twilight domain ourselves. The reason I'm specifically using Black Island's formation is because Twilight domain has been floating for too long, and its floating formation needs a break. Well then, come in. It's been a while and I'm glad to see a familiar face. Although I hadn't formed a close relationship with Song Jin like with Ching Mun Ryong, we aren't on bad terms either, so it's a pleasant reunion. After hesitating for a moment, he finally enters the Twilight domain. Reuniting with Song Jin after such a long time is truly delightful. That's really fortunate. Song Jin, who was almost out of ghostly energy and on the brink of being dragged to the netherworld, had his lifespan extended by absorbing the pure ghostly energy of the Twilight domain. No, this won't do. If you wish, I can also give you a new body through our order's procedure and grace. I point to one of the followers doing chores in the Wuji religious hall and explain the grace of the Wuji religious order. However, Songjin laughs heartily and shakes his head. Thank you for the offer, but I no longer need a body outside the nether crossing ship. I've raised an excellent disciple and opened a branch of Black Ghost Valley in the ancient Force realm. Now, I just want to pass away peacefully when the ship's lifespan ends. I heard from the Conqueror King that the nether crossing ship can last a long time if you recharge the power source and repair it entirely. It's exactly as said. If Buck Hyung HWA repairs the nether crossing ship, which was severely damaged by the Mad Lord, and recharges its power source with Twilight Domain's ghostly energy, it would allow Song Jin to live for quite a long time. However, Song Jin burst into a hearty laugh and says, "If we only consider the nether crossing ship, that's true, but the nether crossing ship, and that history ended in the war with the Mad Lord. The history of the Black Ghost Valley disciples laughing and chatting, being born and raised on the ship, practicing methods, kidnapping and looting, marrying and having children who then entered the main sect. A peaceful history of the Black Ghost Valley that was embedded in the nether crossing ship is no more." He smiles faintly. "I am grateful for the slight extension of my lifespan. Thanks to you, I can live for another 100 years or so. But I will enjoy this lifespan and close my eyes within the nether crossing ship. By then, my disciple will have become a great cultivator at the heavenly being stage, just like I once was, and I will have no regrets." "I understand. I will respect your decision." I nod at Song Jin, who refused the procedure. 100 years might seem long, but for cultivators it's a short time. Take the path to Pinglai Island, for example. According to Yuk Rin, it won't open for another 120 years, so Song Jin will close his eyes before then. However, despite such persuasions from Seo Ran, there is no sign in Song Jin's eyes that he intends to change his decision. He truly intends to close his eyes after raising Seo Ran. Suddenly curious about Song Jin's attitude, I ask him a question. "Let me ask you something." "Please ask." "If, for the revival of Black Ghost Valley, you had to abandon your most precious things, for instance, your memories of Black Ghost Valley or your feelings towards your fellow disciples, would you abandon them?" Song Jin seems to ponder for a moment before responding. "To abandon Black Ghost Valley for Black Ghost Valley. If I were part of a group, it would be my duty." However, abandoning is in itself a ridiculous notion. If I were to abandon my emotions for Black Ghost Valley for the sake of Black Ghost Valley, would the valley abandon me? He speaks with a calm smile. "Even if I abandon my emotions for them, no. Even if I forget everything and become a monster, the valley would not abandon me and would still remember me. Therefore, I believe that completely abandoning or severing something is very difficult. They say attraction force is a mutual connection. Even if one side severs, if the other side pulls, the connection will still remain, will it not?" Thank you for the good answer. Heavenly being stage cultivators are not just simple-minded people with poor talents. They are those who have condensed their own kind of madness to reach their level, and they have their own beliefs and answers about life. Thus, even though Song Jin has lived shorter than me, and his cultivation is lower than mine, his answer has its own profound wisdom. I am embarrassed. I merely mixed my understanding into the words of an argument I once heard before. "Oh, from whom did you hear such words?" "The people who would converse with Song Jin, who had been at the heavenly being stage when alive, are quite limited. It should probably be the elders of Black Ghost Valley, or Azure Heaven Creation Sect, or Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect, or perhaps the Sea Dragon Tribe. In any case, it would be someone I know, but unexpectedly, someone else comes out of Song Jin's mouth. I heard it from Seo Ran's mother, in other words, a child who is a ghost-souled disciple of our valley." Song Jin speaks with warm eyes, looking at Seo Ran. "He's changed a lot. Perhaps it's because he has been with Seo Ran for about 200 years. In the past, even if he cherished Seo Ran, he would grumble a bit because he's from the Sea Dragon race, but now he openly shows his affection for him." Seo Ran also smiles warmly at Song Jin's words. "Master, you said that whenever my mother came to ask about immortal arts, you would have many conversations with her." "Yes, she was a truly lovely child, that child Yuo." Song Jin, who was talking with me, speaks briefly with Seo Ran about his mother, Yuo. Haha, the conversation got sidetracked for a moment. "No, it's all right. It's good to see. I think we've discussed everything needed anyway, so you two should enjoy your conversation after a long time." I laugh heartily and step aside for the two of them. The ghostly creatures of the Twilight Domain have gone down to Black Island and are engaging in voluntary activities, such as teaching the disciples of the ancient Force Realm's Black Ghost Valley branch. Though there are faint cries and screams coming from below, it's nothing to worry about since the ghostly creatures usually make such noises. I descend to the basement of the Wuji religious hall and turn my attention to the salt crystal guarded by Hong Fan and Yon Wei. Is this the salt crystal obtained from Governing Dragon Palace? Yes, the Governing Dragon Palace Lord willingly handed it over. Hong Fan has already installed a flying immortal formation with the salt crystal from Governing Dragon Palace, allowing me to use it like a void spirit pond. Yon Wei grumbles discontentedly. In my opinion, didn't I say that guy is definitely hiding something more? The fact that he's willingly giving up such a precious treasure means there's a 99 plus 1 out of 100 chance that he's trying to hide an even more valuable treasure. My eyes can never be deceived. She crosses her arms and gives Hong Fan a slight glare. Listen here, Yun Haiyan. When I suggested to Hong Fan that we should feed Yuk Rin the poison that amplifies pain by 60,000 times in torture, didn't he say no? Don't you think he's going easy on him just because they're both from the demon race, or maybe he has other motives? No, Lady Yon Wei. Hong Fan, looking aghast, waves his hands in refusal. The poison that amplifies pain by 60,000 times is so severe that even a demon king in the integration stage would likely go mad. No matter how much of an enemy Palace Lord Yuk is, what did he do to deserve such torture? I shake my head and say, Hong Fan is right, the 60,000 times poison is too excessive. He hasn't betrayed us or driven us into a corner, so there's no need for such harsh torture just to find more hidden treasures. Yon Wei turns her head with a pout, not receiving support even from me. HMPH. If it's that Yuk Rin guy, he probably swallowed all the inheritance from the Cherry Blossom Dragon Palace Lord by himself. We could have gotten that legacy too. If we lose those treasures just because we couldn't be a little harsher, I think my stomach will hurt. Well, let's search for such great treasures gradually. For now, let's focus on fully building the health axis. Do as you please. Why ask an old fossil like me? She leaves the basement in a sulky manner, and I sigh while letting my consciousness drift. According to what I heard from Yuk Rin, the path to Pinglai Island will open in about 120 years. Until then, the plan is to build and complete as much of the health axis as possible. Peaceful Cloud Continent. In Yuhua, located in the borders of the continent, 3 great masters at the peak Qi refining stage and 1 demigod of the Qi building stage dominate the land. And Yuhua's only Qi building demigod, the Qi building cultivator, who settled in the nearby Black Ridge Valley after the collapse of Split Turtle Valley. Fighting God, Chinese letter, Ham Jin, that day as well, respectfully places a bowl of water on a small altar inside his cave residence and prays. Just then, rattle, rattle, rattle. Suddenly the bowl begins to tremble, and the water turns black. Hot. And the moment Ham Jin regains his senses, he finds himself pulled into a pure white mental world. In that mental world, a giant ghost king looks down upon him. Ham Jin bows his head in the presence of the Wuji Ghost King. O Great One, did you summon me? The Wuji Ghost King looks down at him and speaks. I need to borrow your body. Have you kept the Jade tablet safe? Yes, I have always kept it within my bosom. Good, let's go to that place immediately. Ham Jin nods, and as soon as he gives his consent, the Wuji Ghost King instantly takes control of his body. Chut. After taking control of Ham Jin's body, I try moving it around. Ho, excellent. How much time has passed? Ham Jin has already reached the 2nd constellation of Qi building. Your praise is too much. Ham Jin responds humbly from within his heart essence, but in my eyes, his talent is truly outstanding. No, perhaps his unique talent has continued to blossom, because I've often possessed his body. Whether his inherent talent is good or it improved because of me, it's great either way. It's when I'm about to leave Ham Jin's cave residence. Sir husband, where are you going? A woman from another room calls out to him, rubbing her eyes in a disheveled appearance. Ham Jin speaks flustered. Great One can just wave her off, and it will be fine. Following his words, I wave my hand, and she politely bows and steps back in understanding. Have you married? That. While the previous core formation old monsters had demigod disciples and followers, the old monsters implanted restrictions that killed their followers and disciples upon their death. Because of this, I am the only demigod left in you was so. The topic of marriage kept coming up from various cultivator clans and, well, that's your decision too. Sir husband, are you skipping breakfast today? However, shortly after, another woman comes out from another room in the cave residence and asks Ham Jin. I wave her off as well and try to leave the cave residence. But as I try to leave the cave residence, I keep encountering more of Ham Jin's wives emerging from various rooms. You, just what kind of life are you living? After sending off the 17th wife and stepping outside the cave residence, I can't help but ask in exasperation. Ham Jin coughs a bit awkwardly, as if embarrassed. I definitely did not force them or anything. They really are daughters sent from cultivator clans. They begged to stay here, saying they would have to marry much older old monsters from other countries. I click my tongue as I control attraction force with Ham Jin's body, arriving at that location. Since Ham Jin has reached the chi building stage, there is much more I can do now with his body now. Kugaguguk. As I clench the void, attraction force twists. I take out the Jade tablet from Ham Jin's bosom and activate it. Split Turtle Valley disappears, and over the wide expanse of land, a green formation shines brightly. After a while, I notice that the surrounding space has transformed into a middle zone, just as before. Wowung. I read the flow of attraction force within the middle zone and calculate the coordinates. The middle zone not only serves as a relay station connecting the sea domains of the ancient force realm, but also makes it easier to leap across vast spaces. In other words, the location that the esteemed ones are heading to, the lightning sacred sea, is so incredibly far that it required the creation of a middle zone. Weiyang. Having connected the other side's coordinates with attraction force and consciousness, I pull the coordinates toward me. Kagagugugu. In an instant, Ham Jin's body leaps across an immense space. Within his mind, Ham Jin looks around through my vision, marveling at the sight. Round us are countless stars, nebulae, and galaxies, all appearing as clusters of light. The very act of witnessing this vast world seems to trigger an awakening effect, further enhancing Ham Jin's upper dantian. This kid's cultivation will rise even faster now. It's a good thing for me. How much space do we cross? Finally, I arrive at the next set of coordinates. This place is Kurung Kurururung. Lightning is crashing all around. Toxic gases lethal to humans float in the atmosphere, and sandstorms rage across the arid desert. It looks like a star, planet, celestial body, where life can't exist. Is this the lightning sacred sea? It's not. I realize that another middle zone has been set up at the location I have arrived at. Uguguguk. I reactivate the middle zone. I see. The place called the lightning sacred sea is so far away that the esteemed ones had to create an additional middle zone. It means it's a distance so far that a single middle zone is still insufficient to reach it. Once again, I use attraction force to activate the middle zone and travel to the next coordinates indicated by this middle zone. Wowung. This time, I find myself on a star without any air. Like the moon, its gravity isn't very strong, and the land is barren. A place where life can't exist. And this is also a middle zone. I'm slightly taken aback. How far away is the lightning sacred sea that even the esteemed ones had set up multiple middle zones? Suddenly, I recall that Jang Ik, who was summoned by sacred master Beek Woon, sent his clone only 1,000 years later. Perhaps it's a distance where even the esteemed ones, who travel through vast space and time using attraction force, take 1,000 years to reach this distant location. This implies that there could be many more such middle zones ahead. No, what is this? Damn, the coordinates were clearly labeled Lightning Sacred Sea. It seems that the esteemed ones had lazily omitted Middle Zone from what should have been labeled Middle Zone to Lightning Sacred Sea. They should have been more precise with their labeling. Well, at this point, I have no choice but to keep going. Wowung. I activate the middle zone again and cross space. How many times do I jump through middle zones like this? I notice that Ham Jin's body is gradually failing to endure. Ham Jin, who accepted me into his body, is struggling to endure. Even though he has reached the mid-chi building stage, which allows me to exercise more power than before, he is still only at the mid-chi building stage. Despite the grandiose and laughable title of demigod, he hasn't yet surpassed the limits of humans. What should I do? I frown as I arrive on another planet filled with toxic gases. Hamjin's spiritual power and energy are depleting, and all the middle zones are on stars where no life can survive. If his spiritual power runs out, Hamjin is doomed to die. I could consume Hamjin's life force to draw on my power, and partially modify the environment on the star to make it habitable, but I'd feel too guilty towards Hamjin. For now, let's keep going. I grit my teeth and continue, moving through the middle zones. How many middle zones do I traverse like this? Despair begins to set in on my face. Damn it, are there no worlds where people can live, except for Hamjins? Every middle zone designated by the esteemed ones are on stars with extreme environments where no life can exist. This won't work. Damn, I'll have to replenish Hamjin's life force later with longevity and other methods. For now, I'll modify the area using his life force. Just as I'm about to seriously exert my power to modify the area for human habitation. Is it you, the one using the ancient force realm's transmission array since earlier? I turn around towards the voice, which appears without a trace. This is the surface of a planet so hot that even rocks melt. However, there stands a being unprotected by spiritual power, looking at me from atop a scorching rock. This is peculiar. Clearly, you're a first step before the throne, but your soul came from the ancient force realm. Does the Heart tribe exist in the ancient force realm as well? It is none other than the green dwarf with 4 patas on his back, the heaven-collapsing esteemed one Jang Ik. Well, it's whatever. The important thing is not that. Jang Ik smiles at me and draws one of the patas from his back. When you meet an elder, you should greet them properly, right? Come greet me. If I like you, I might consider taking you as my 23rd disciple. // Discord https://dsc/gg/wetread. Link to donations in the Discord. Chapter 370, Holding Hands 7. I swallow as I watch Jang Ik draw his pato. O great heaven-collapsing esteemed one, I have heard of your illustrious name. Well, do you have something to say? To start, I'm not just an ordinary member of the Heart tribe, but originally from the Heaven tribe. And the method through which I have descended into the astral realm is by temporarily possessing this boy from a decaying corpse realm. In other words, if we fight, this boy is sure to die. Even if you do not spare me, please show mercy to this child. At my words, heaven-collapsing esteemed one looks at me with a curious gaze. You claim to be from the Heaven tribe. Fascinating. The Heaven tribe I know of think of the lives of their possessed bodies as mere fertilizer. Well, fine. Then come out of that boy's body for now. Even a Heaven tribe member should be able to greet me adequately with just an avatar, given that you've reached the first step before the throne. Thank you for your consideration, but if I come out, this child will burn to death in the heat of this planet. Do you think I would ask you to come out without considering that? Jang Ik swings his pato towards the surrounding hot zone. Kugaguguk. Then something astonishing happens. It feels as if attraction force twists for a moment. No, it's as if the very laws themselves are twisting. Under a scorching star, a part of the planet's surface that once revealed a hellish appearance changes according to Jang Ik's will. Just as cultivators use spells to bend laws, Jang Ik's single move feels as if nature itself is obeying his will. In an instant, the hellish landscape becomes a pristine, clear valley where humans can survive. Although without grass and trees, clear water bursts forth immediately, cooling and soaking the ground. A crystal-clear lake, as if greenery would soon sprout from somewhere, unfolds before my eyes. Throw him adequately in there and come out. I am at a loss for words, and my mouth gapes open. With the power of the Heart tribe, is such a thing possible? Until now, I thought martial arts focused solely on confronting and defeating opponents compared to spell techniques. Of course, there are martial arts that can ignite flames or guide water, but transforming nature itself like Jang Ik is considered more the domain of spell techniques used by cultivators. After placing Hamjin's body in the lake Jang Ik created, I used the single strike of seated detachment, standing oblivion to exit from his upper dantian. Splash plop. The first strike of seated detachment, standing oblivion, is an avatar, and the avatar doesn't differ significantly from the main body in terms of pure skills of the Heart tribe. Of course, it lacks endurance compared to the main body, but that is the only difference. Jang Ik looks somewhat displeased as he sees me crawl out of Hamjin's upper dantian. Well, Everything is fine, but why did you come out in such a sinister manner, like a parasitic monster crawling out to find a new host? You could have just come out normally. I guess it became a habit since I cultivated the ghost path method a little. I ask for your understanding. After glancing at the unconscious Hamjin, whose spiritual power and energy have been completely exhausted, I look around at the completely transformed surroundings and speak. Just what did you do? Why learn to fly when you can't even walk? Anyway, if you're a heaven tribe at the level of descending into the lower realms, you should be able to do something similar with spell techniques. He leaves me with nothing to say to his truthful words. After exiting the area Jang Ik has created, I take my stance. I was merely inquiring while thinking about the next step. Well, that's not a bad attitude. But what I did is less about the enlightenment of second step before the throne and more about a technique I developed to stabilize regions in the Chaos Realm to establish a heart tribe territory after reaching second step before the throne. I see, then I shall save questions about the next realm for later, after I greet you properly. Before finishing my sentence, I focus my mind and shoot towards Jang Ik like lightning. Gathering heaven and earth spiritual energy to form a chi sword, I aim straight for Jang Ik's face. However, he deflects my sword effortlessly with just one pado, not even drawing the others. Come closer. A rather abrupt statement, but I understand what he means. Between Jang Ik and me, countless domains and scenes are overflowing. Mostly, these are scenes of me being beaten up by Jang Ik, my body being split apart, or my head exploding. And the domains are places that Jang Ik could obliterate along with the entire space with a single move. Such places and scenes, numbering in the thousands or tens of thousands, are violently pressing down on my mind. And despite the physical proximity between Jang Ik and I, the myriad domains and scenes between us make him feel incredibly distant. Jang Ik is telling me to come a little closer. I will strip away his domain. Kung. Stepping forward with the right foot and leaning my left side back, I slash from the upper left to lower right towards Jang Ik. Before the stone fragments I have kicked off the ground fall back down. Jang Ik moves his pado, spinning 3 times on the spot, and sends 3 slashes towards my right side. It feels as if a gigantic claw is coming down to rip me apart. I immediately change my stance, slightly deflecting my sword to ward off the claw. I have to deflect it. If I can't, the next moment, I find myself flung into outer space. When I regain my senses, I see the aftermath of my exchange with Jang Ik wreaking havoc on the planet where I had been standing. From that single strike, I ended up here. Before I can finish my thought, I sense Jang Ik above me, holding a pado in both hands and ready to slice apart. I have to dodge. In a panic, I transform my body into the all-heaven sword to evade his strike. Though there is no wind in space due to the lack of air, the sight of everything in the area where Jang Ik's dual pados traverse being obliterated sends chills down my spine. Then, in the vacuum of space, Jang Ik's intent resonates like words enlightening the heart. Do not dodge. Chills. Rip. I definitely dodged, but my waist is severed and my upper body and lower body are split apart. You will die. Why? The avatar of seated detachment, standing oblivion being cut in half, is not the issue. Jang Ik's single strike was clearly executed in a dimension that I cannot comprehend. Master. Suddenly, an emergency alarm blares throughout the entire Wuji religious order. It's an alarm that sounds when the cult leader, Wuji Ghost King Seo Yunhyan, suffers a critical injury. Hong Fan is shocked seeing the body of Seo Yunhyan, who is sitting on the cult seat, being severed at the waist and stomach split open. He quickly begins to stitch the severed parts back together. What in the world? Why all of a sudden? Mysterious incident that makes no sense. However, despite such a bizarre occurrence, Seo Yunhyan does not rise. Instead, he sits on the cult seat with an even more focused expression, his eyes closed and concentrating intensely on something. I don't know what he did, but he even cut the main body. A spine-chilling skill. It means that to Jang Ik, shallow tricks like using an avatar or the main body makes no difference. Gritting my teeth, I manifest about 3,000 chi swords around me. I have materialized the colorless glass swords. Chuak. 3,000 chi swords dance and attack Jang Ik. The dance of formlessness, boasting an infinite trajectory that becomes a colossal slash that could cleave mountains. Boang has the sword formation shattered, and my right arm cut off at the swing of Jang Ik's pado. Gugagagugugu. There is no sound in space, but there is vibration. Looking back towards where Jang Ik has struck. Not the place where Ham Jin is, but another planet in this star system is split in half and is crumbling apart. Do it properly. Sururung. Just his gaze alone seems to crush my soul. All of a sudden, Jang Ik is already before me, holding his pados in both hands. Even though you are of the Heart tribe, as long as you are also from the Heaven tribe, I have no qualms about killing you. Weighing. My chi sword rises to the plane of soul and descends below. The single strike of Deep Mountain, emerging Tao explodes towards Jang Ik, but he shatters it head-on with his pado. Quaying. My seated detachment, standing Oblivion avatar fails to withstand Jang Ik's blade attack and is flung towards a star from the expanse of space. Jang Ik is chasing after me again. No, saying he is chasing is incorrect. The moment I blink, he is in front of me again. He is different from Kim Young-hoon and other integration stage cultivators. If Kim Young-hoon is too fast to perceive, and integration stage cultivators leap through space, he uses another method entirely. Huwung. To avoid being burned by the heat of the star's surface, I tightly wrap the All-Heaven sword around my body and focus all my mental strength to deflect Jang Ik's next strike. Jang Ik raises his foot, then lowers it down. Though it's the foot of a small green dwarf, I see a terrifying vision of a slash that seems capable of shattering a continent from his kick. Quajijijijok. The seated detachment, standing Oblivion avatar is driven straight into the surface of the star. I watch as crimson flames and heat storms erupt from the star's surface. A storm large enough to engulf an entire small planet. This is the star-shattering stage. I am utterly stunned by this cosmic power, but I clench my teeth and focus my mind on the All-Heaven sword. There is no time to think about anything else. I've figured out how Jang Ik is moving. Surprisingly, Jang Ik is moving through planes. Of course, he isn't really moving entirely through planes. It's a method of briefly shifting to the plane of soul before descending to a lower plane. After figuring out Jang Ik's method, I sense the plane of soul and extend the All-Heaven sword. Severing Mountain. Pazug. The ultimate technique of severing mountain swordsmanship, unleashed with full power, barely grazes Jang Ik's cheek as he suddenly appears before my eyes in a blink of an eye. His skin splits and a tiny drop of blood drips out. Despite being on the surface of a star, the fact that the blood droplet is oozing out ordinarily like any other decaying corpse realm or planet suggests that the area around Jang Ik is practically an alternate world. Wiping the blood droplet with a surprised expression, Jang Ik exclaims through heart language. Smart fellow, you figured out I was moving between planes and immediately counterattacked. Quang. Jang Ik slashes down with his pados again as he speaks, and I draw out all the remaining power in my seated detachment, standing Oblivion avatar to deflect that force. However, the residual impact alone leaves the entire body of my avatar tattered, and to make matters worse, my main body seated in the Wuji religious hall is vomiting blood and dying. Even so, I can't die fighting Jang Ik in this life. Using the All-Heaven sword, I begin drawing power from my main body through the plane of soul. Kagagugugu. The dragon veins of Twilight Domain converge around my main body, expending their power to open a path between us. Although the main body can't truly cross over, it's a technique that allows me to temporarily use my main body's other powers for a short battle. After converting the cultivation of the Heaven and Earth tribes from the main body, I raise them to the plane of soul through the All-Heaven sword and bring them over before lowering them to a lower plane and integrating Heaven, Earth, and Heart. Of course, this method isn't without cost, as I feel the dragon veins of Twilight Domain temporarily drying up as a consequence. Weiyeving. The three great ultimates rise behind me. Jang Ik exclaims in amazement once more. I was planning to burst your head with that single strike. That sword, is it moving through planes? You're using your manifestation very well. He chuckles and praises me. Then another green slash comes flying. Deflecting Jang Ik's force, I am flung away again. Quagwagwagwing. I'm swept beyond the star's horizon and thrown back out into space. Traction, force, and spells, circuits, curses, blessings, immortal beast power. There is no time to pick and choose. If I don't want to die, I have to use everything I have. Quadug. Jang Ik's hand grasps my head. Excellent. I don't know how you did it, but having all heaven, earth, and heart at a similar level is impressive. Combining all your power to reach the grand perfection integration level. Other esteemed ones would want to take you in as their disciple if they saw this. Though his hand is small, I feel as if every single cell in my body is clenched by his hand. I have to counterattack. Jang Ik raises his pada once more. Though he releases my head, I can't move. But if I take another hit, I'll die. Wujiduk. I force my body to move through the terror he has implanted in me. Then I combine all the techniques of severing mountain swordsmanship. Simultaneously, I pour all the power of the three great ultimates into this one sword strike. I bet everything on this one move. Haha, a rather cute struggle, but I can feel it. No, I can see it. In the next moment, my whole body will be crushed, turning into a bright red Seo Yunhyan kimchi pancake. Therefore, I will change that future. Become delicious, little heaven tribe brat. Record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. Payet. In an instant, my body disappears amidst all flows and perceptions. I cannot be found in the future, the past, or the present. By transforming into the very emptiness Chinese letter T. Yoljian tried to teach me, I evade Jang Ik's perception for a single moment. Quadjujujudek. I can see Jang Ik's eyes narrowing sharply. His Pado cannot find me. However, in that brief instant, Jang Ik converts his Pado single strike into a wide-range attack. His Pado dyes the area around the star in green. Ch Wararak. Fine needle-like strikes spread around the star's vicinity. And in that brief moment of time, having just barely evaded his gaze, I, completely exhausted with holes all over my body, am pulled into the star by its gravitational force. Damn it! I can't move my body. The tiny needles Jang Ik scattered have penetrated my entire body, holding me in place. I lost, and Jang Ik appears before me. Excellent. All of a sudden, he is holding Ham Jin in one hand. Why have you brought that child? Jang Ik is distorting the laws around him, allowing Ham Jin to breathe normally even in the astral realm. But I don't understand. Does he intend to kill Ham Jin because he is also of the Heaven tribe? However, Jang Ik suddenly grabs the back of my neck, laughs heartily, and starts flying somewhere. I went a bit overboard looking for you, brat, and might have disturbed a superior. Let's run away. What? And then it happens. Kugagugaguk. The middle zone, where Ham Jin and I came from. From that middle zone, from that scorched planet with a hellish temperature, shoots out a black hand. What the? Zing. My whole body trembles. It's hard to maintain my sanity. That is. A quasi-immortal in slumber is tossing around because of us. Let's get out of here quickly. Kugagugagagugu. Jang Ik brings us along and starts leaping through boundless spacetime. And chasing the spacetime leaping us is the giant hand shot from the star, resembling a withered old tree branch. What is this? Why Wissen entering Nervanather? Ho, to see a quasi-immortal for that long and still remain sane, you're quite something. Those below the integration stage might not know, but most true persons are in slumber, embodying stars in the astral realm. In fact, all worlds where ancient force transmission arrays are installed are essentially on the bodies of true persons, and, while there are some awake among the whole, they're focused on other worlds, making them difficult to meet. He laughs heartily as he speaks. Well, to sum up what I'm saying, that person is just stirring in their sleep so we won't be caught. Anyway, with this level of mental strength and mastery of the basics, how about it, becoming my disciple? I can't respond to Jang Ik's words, merely watching the giant hand chasing us and screaming in the cosmic void. Thus, Jang Ik and I cross the vast expanse of spacetime, flying off to somewhere. Translator notes, second term changes. Comprehension in the context of mantra, repentant enlightenment. Jairion/Jaubik/Jawit wa Jairion Jaubik Jau8 wa. Dalem tree, great forest wood. // Discord https://dsc gg/wetread. Link to donations in the Discord. Chapter 371, At the C1. Ancient Force Realm. Wuji Religious Order. In the underground headquarters of the Wuji Religious Hall, the high-ranking members of the Wuji Religious Order have gathered, wearing serious expressions. So, see Yoon Hyun, who descended his consciousness to the lower realms to build the health axis, suddenly had his abdomen split open and vomited blood. Is that correct? Yes, and since then, Master has been in a comatose state. Splurred. Seo Yoon Hyun, connected to the flying immortal formation while seated on the cult leader's seat, fails to open his eyes. Occasionally, blood will boil up and spew from his 7 orifices. Jeon Myo-hoon gives a bewildered look to Hong Fan, who has been with Seo Yoon Hyun, and Hong Fan nods and hands over the records, documenting the incident the entire time. Please take a look at this first. After examining the past scenes through Hong Fan's demon ability, Jeon Myo-hoon asks with an even more serious expression. Just what in the world is going on here? In my opinion, it's at that moment. Yeon Wei, who is examining the records shown by Hong Fan, speaks with a grave expression. This can't be. Ancestor, do you know something? Yes, fortunately, it's something I'm familiar with. She looks at Seo Yoon Hyun's condition with a darkened face and speaks. A sudden coma with symptoms of boiling blood. It is highly likely that he has been cursed by a deep-sea monster from the ancient force realm with a deep-sea curse. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. Deep-sea curse. Yes. Occasionally, some deep-sea monsters of the ancient force realm cast very bizarre curses. When afflicted by such a curse, one falls into a coma and exhibits bizarre symptoms. I've seen the Cherry Blossom Dragon Palace Lord, who chased me around in the past, also fall into a frequent coma and suffer from a fever due to a mild deep-sea curse. At Yeon Wei's words, Buck Hyung-hwa asks with a slightly puzzled expression. But from what I heard, scales like flower petals appear on the body when afflicted with a deep-sea curse. Nonsense. I arrived at the ancient force realm 40,000 years ago and gathered all sorts of news and information. What you know is just a peculiarity of some specific deep-sea curses. With that, Buck Hyung-hwa nods and steps back. Yeon Wei-nim has certainly lived much longer than I have, so she must know more. Ignoring Buck Hyung-hwa's question, Yeon Wei speaks to Kim Young-hoon with a serious face. Hey, Heart Tribe, make a wound on Seo Yoon Hyun's body. Well, all right. Boing. A golden light flashes, and a small wound appears on Seo Yoon Hyun's cheek, causing blood to flow. Yeon Wei takes a drop of that blood and floats it in the air. Woing. Seo Yoon Hyun's blood, lifted into the air by Yeon Wei's telekinesis spell, begins to boil as if alive and emits a hazy mist. Look at this. Such a reaction only occurs with the true blood of immortal beasts, but since this kid isn't of the immortal beast lineage and is purely human, this phenomenon indicates that he has absorbed some power of history from the depths of a deep-sea monster. With a solemn face, Yeon Wei bursts Seo Yoon Hyun's blood. Pay it. As the blood droplet explodes in the air, it emits a pitch-black and eerie energy. And this evil and bizarre energy, it definitely resembles the ungraspable nature of deep-sea monsters. Seo Yoon Hyun must definitely have been cursed by a deep-sea monster. However, Hong Fan speaks with a puzzled expression. But strategist Yeon Wei-nim. To me, this energy seems similar to the devotees of the nether ghost realm's true persons. What? I think, rather than being inflicted by a deep-sea curse, Master might have directly encountered a passing true person while descending his consciousness to the lower worlds. Silence, you fool. Would my insight, honed over countless years, be more accurate, or would your less than 500-year-old insight be more accurate? At Yeon Wei's words, Hong Fan steps back while tilting his head. She crosses her arms, clicks her tongue in dissatisfaction and speaks. Anyway, the Cherry Blossom Dragon Palace Lord, who was afflicted by a deep-sea curse back then, only suffered from a fever and occasionally woke from a coma. But Seo Yoon Hyun's blood is boiling, and he shows no signs of waking up. He must be afflicted by a much stronger deep-sea curse. Is there a cure? Kim Yeon asks with concern, and Yeon Wei nods with an air of confidence. Of course, the deep-sea curse may be terrifying, but it is a curse that can be treated. It can be cured using ancient stones. Ancient stones? Yes, you can transfer the curse of a deep-sea monster into the ancient stones. When treating the Cherry Blossom Dragon Palace Lord who was afflicted by the deep-sea curse 40,000 years ago, I heard that about 1 million ancient stones were needed. Seo Yoon Hyun's symptoms seem 5 to 6 times worse, so roughly 10 million ancient stones should be needed. Upon hearing this, Buck Hyung Hwa, Seo Ran, and many others' eyes widen as if they are about to pop out. 10 million ancient stones. Isn't even 1 million ancient stones the 10-year budget of a single sea domain palace? Seeing their reactions, Yonwei speaks. Well, is it not at least fortunate that the curse can be treated with ancient stones? Since we have obtained 4 sea domains, we should be able to gather several million ancient stones immediately, no? Seo Ran speaks while flustered. Currently, from the 4 sea domains, we can gather about 4 million ancient stones. Ancient stones, given their high value, are traded at a ratio of 1 ancient stone to 100 spirit stones. Then we still need about 6 million more. Yonwei racks her brain with a serious expression, while Hong Fan sighs as he looks at Seo Yun Hyan. I don't think this is it, master being cursed. What did you say, Hong Fan? It's nothing. Good, then let's all work together to gather the missing 6 million ancient stones. Thus, except for Hong Fan, Yonwei and everyone else began their efforts to gather the ancient stones needed to save Seo Yun Hyan. /////. It's hot. No, should I say it's warm? It's the comforting feeling of being in my mother's amniotic fluid. Wait, what? Hyuk. Splash. When I come to my senses, I find myself in water. Water? As I become increasingly aware, I realize I am half submerged in a place that seems to be a hot spring covered with steam. This is. Just moments ago, I was fighting Jang Ik and being chased by an entering nirvana true person. But where am I now? I try to extend my consciousness to survey the surroundings out of bewilderment. However, I soon realize that my consciousness cannot extend. What's this? Is the water blocking my consciousness? No, it's the space itself that's blocking it. On guard, I raise my body from the hot spring. But as I do so, I feel a sense of unease and look down at the floor submerged up to my knees. What? There is no floor. Splash. As soon as I realize there is no floor, whatever I have been standing on disappears, and I sink back into the hot spring below. Splash, splash. Eventually resurfacing, I try to gather my energy to perform ladder to heaven, but I suddenly feel something strange again. TL/N. Ladder to heaven, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. A martial arts technique in The Return of the Condor Heroes, where one steps on one's own foot to jump or leap higher into the air. There's no chi. That's right. Strangely, there is no chi in this hot spring-like place. No, even when I try to release the chi within my body, it won't come out. This space itself is distorted. Surely this is not an ordinary space, but some place within a formation or a restriction. Payet. Feeling the flow of steam and air around me with my skin, I control my physical body to an extreme degree and rise into the air by stepping on the air. I need to survey my surroundings. How high do I ascend for exploration? What? Although I ascended into the sky, for some reason, the hot spring I have just left appears right above me. Splash. And I fall back into the hot spring I have just escaped from. Just what is this damn thing? Feeling a surge of frustration, I realize that either the space is distorted or my sense of direction is messed up. I decide to keep my eyes open underwater and try going down. For how long do I hold my breath and swim down the hot spring? Splash. I stick my head out over the hot spring, seeing the same scenery as before. Stay calm. Though I am startled by this bizarre situation, I take a deep breath, trying to stay calm without falling into panic. If there is no chi Chinese letter, then what moves this space? If neither chi Chinese letter nor consciousness Chinese letter can move, then what constitutes this place? As I ponder, I recall when I stepped on the air to rise into the void. Attraction force. Yes, that is it. Chi and consciousness cannot be used and do not function in this space. However, attraction force certainly exists. Even if something has warped and twisted the space, existence remains. If attraction force exists, then fate also exists. I close my eyes and ponder. The All-Heaven Sword is a sword that transcends planes. If only attraction force exists in this space, then at least fate must also inevitably exist. And the fact that I exist here definitely means that my sword also exists. Because the All-Heaven Sword is essentially me. Which means, Tsu-tsu-tsut. Sharp energy arises from my entire body, starting to slice through the hot spring water around me. Chua. In an instant, every single water droplet around me bursts and transforms into steam. Weiying. I see this is. Feeling the all-heaven sword completely transformed into attraction force, my eyes bright. Empowered by the characteristics of this space, the all-heaven sword has risen to the plane of fate. Chugagugug. Using the all-heaven sword, I slash through this space, cutting the attraction force that governs this place. Chwag. I swing my sword toward the void. In the next moment, the hot spring world that envelops me seems to be engulfed in mist, and I find myself someplace else. This is Chwag. Hot water. Steam covering the surroundings. Another hot spring. But, hey, how long has it been since you opened your eyes and you're already out of the bubble? Insane, this one. It's a bit of a waste to have him for dinner tonight. Kagagugung. From various places I hear immense voices that seem to shake heaven and earth. Kayak. Splurred. As soon as I hear those voices, blood spurts from my 7 orifices, and I feel as if my internal organs are shaken. The one saving grace is Wu-Wung. I can use Qi. In this other hot spring, I can draw upon Qi and consciousness, and I quickly channel energy to heal my body. Unlike the previous hot spring, this one has many visible rocks and reefs, and a definite floor that allows me to climb up. I climb onto a nearby rock and look around. Kagagugugu. What is that? However, as soon as I try to extend my consciousness, I hurriedly retract it and lower my eyes. Beyond the hot spring's mist, gargantuan shadows resembling enormous giants flicker and loom. Recalling how my internal organs had shaken the moment I heard their voices, I guess at their identities. Swallowing hard, I respectfully bow on the rock toward the shadows beyond the mist. This humble human race cultivator, a certain CEO, greets the esteemed ones. As I offer my greetings towards their direction, a chuckling sound echoes from beyond the mist. Splurred. Pugwak. It's as if the entire space is vibrating. Even though it's just the sound of laughter, it strikes my entire body like a full-force attack from an integration stage grand cultivator. Oh dear, he's dying. Come to think of it, we were speaking in our usual manner, haha. You should understand, since living in the astral realm, we often have to convey our thoughts to those across the vast space, so we tend to always speak a bit loudly. Thank you for your consideration. Is this speaking a bit loudly? I find it a somewhat absurd, but I continue to keep my head bowed. Then it happens. By the way, you look quite tender and chewy for a human race. Can I taste just one arm? No, perhaps just your left side. Twitch. One of the esteemed ones asks in a subtle voice, drooling from beyond the mist. I look up at them with eyes full of tension. Malice, Chinese letter. While there is the sentiment of looks delicious, this esteemed one seems to harbor some grudge against the human race, sending malice my way. But how am I supposed to respond to this? As I remain silent, unable to respond, a shadow beyond the mist clicks their tongue in annoyance and says, "Since you didn't answer, I will take one of your legs as punishment." Wadak wajijuduk. Then my leg starts to get torn away. Though an attraction force close to cosmic power is tearing at my leg like it's a bug. However, gritting my teeth, I wrap the all-heaven sword around my leg and shift planes to escape the attraction force's influence. The shadow speaks in a tone of both interest and displeasure. Impressive, a mere grand cultivator escaping from my grasp. Let's see how long you can endure. The next moment, Kagagugugu. My entire body begins to feel as if it's being crushed. The esteemed one's attraction force focuses on me. What is this? It's literally a force capable of compressing an entire continent into the size of a fist. I realize I have less than a second before I will be crushed into Seo Yunhyan Do and grit my teeth to endure. Weiying. The halo of the 3 great ultimates appears behind my head, pushing back against the esteemed one's power. However, the esteemed one only seems amused, applying even more pressure to crush me. I'm going to die. Just when I think I can't hold out any longer. Chwak. The hot spring water nearby splits, and something green rises into the air. It's the heaven-collapsing esteemed one, Jang Ik. He wipes the water off his head and shakes his body, then looks at me. You've already regained your senses and emerged, quite impressive, but anyway, what are you doing? He looks towards the voice that has been toying with me, his eyes burning with green light. The voice seems to flinch at the sight of Jang Ik, then laughs and says, "The food you brought looks so delicious, I thought I'd have a taste first. If you share a little, I'll also offer a suitable compensation." At those words, Jang Ik climbs onto a nearby reef and says with a stern face, "Let go immediately, he's my disciple." "Oh, he's your disciple, my apologies." "You know now, so why aren't you letting go?" However, despite Jang Ik declaring me as his disciple, the esteemed one across merely chuckles. "If he's your disciple, let's test him as such. After all, to survive here, one must have a certain level of skill, no? I've already tested him, and it seems he escaped from the bubble with his own power. That much is sufficient. Let him go." Well, everything's fine, but your tone bothers me, considering your disciple is in my grasp." The next moment, Jang Ik disappears from the spot. The attraction force holding me vanishes, and a terrifying scream echoes from beyond the mist. KQA. Flash. Green light flickers where the shadow is. Hukiwa KUAH. The esteemed one who had bound me screams in agony, thrashing about. The entire space vibrates and trembles. Soon after, the voice subsides, and Jang Ik reappears beside me. The esteemed ones who have been chatting around us collectively fall silent all of a sudden. "No one will mess with you from now on, so don't worry. That esteemed one is from the true devil realm and has harbored a grudge against the human race since before they became an esteemed one, so they act like that whenever they see humans." Well, discussing here isn't appropriate. Shall we move to another place? Buwang. As Jang Ik waves his hand towards the void, the space is cut, and we are instantly moved to a different location. It's a place filled with endless darkness. Craggled crackling. And in the darkness, Jang Ik lights a fire. "You must have many questions. Since you must be taken aback, ask them slowly. First of all, where are we?" This is the outskirts of the lightning sacred sea. The outskirts are intertwined with countless barriers and dimensions set up by the golden deity, resulting in numerous overlapping dimensions. The lightning sacred sea. Regardless of what happened, it seems I've arrived at my intended destination. Do you know where Ham Jin is? You mean that boy who came as your incarnation? I left him on a planet where he can survive near the lightning sacred sea. A human race at the Chi building level shouldn't get beaten to death easily. Thank you. You're a peculiar one. Is he important to you? Among all the connections I've made until now, which one isn't important? A wise answer to a foolish question. Jang Ik laughs heartily as he slices through the void. Brilliant golden light pours through the cut, and Jang Ik reaches beyond the light and takes something out. An apple. It's a golden apple that shimmers with a golden light. He tosses the golden apple into the campfire and asks while roasting it, "Do you have any other questions? Will you take me as your disciple? Did you not already agree?" "Pardon?" Confused, I retrace my memory and recall that during our escape from the true person's hand, I inadvertently accepted his proposal. "You are my 23rd disciple. Congratulations, ha ha ha." That was something I said when I wasn't quite in my right mind. Are you saying you accepted while in a state of mental weakness? From what I saw back then, the emotion you expressed was one of strong desire. Anyway, since I've already accepted you as my disciple, you are my disciple. Know that. He waves his hand dismissively, as if he won't accept any objections. However, I shake my head and say, "There is a more outstanding genius than me. You should take that person as your disciple instead. Then I can take that person as a disciple and you as a disciple too. What are you saying? Just introduce them to me later." Understood. Surprisingly, it settled easily. In any case, I've created a link to introduce Kim Young-hoon to Jang Ik. That's good enough. Is there anything else you're curious about? Why are you asking me to ask what I'm curious about? To empty. Pardon? I'm trying to satisfy your curiosity as much as possible to empty your cluttered heart. That way, it will be easier to train you. I have an instinctive feeling that Jang Ik's training will be extremely harsh and arduous. But I can't refuse. Since it's come to this, I should ask everything I can. I start with what I am most curious about. I've heard that the reason the esteemed ones have come to the lightning sacred sea is to retrieve very important things for the middle realms. What exactly are these important things for the middle realms? They are names. Names? That's right. Each middle realm, including bright cold, true devil, ancient force, purple gold, nether ghost, and blood yin, has a true name. A long time ago, the golden deity stole jade plaques imbued with the power of those true names and embedded them in their immortal treasure. That's why we are here to retrieve them. What happens if you find these names? If we find the names, the dimensional barriers of the middle realms will become much thicker. There's a significant ritualistic meaning, and the attraction force will so and become much better. I don't know all the details, but one thing is important. I am startled by Jang Ik's next words. If the jade plaques inscribed with the true names of the middle realms are retrieved, the chances of the living beings in the middle realms avoiding the end increase exponentially. The end. It's a term I've heard intermittently before. I swallow nervously and carefully ask, what is this end? It's self-explanatory from the name. The world will be destroyed. This heavenly domain, in other words, our astral realm, the 6 middle realms, and the decaying corpse realms connected to those middle realms. All worlds will perish. Then, I understand the timing is about 10,000 years from now. Pardon? I stare blankly at Jang Ik, losing my focus. He repeats calmly, as if it's nothing new. In 10,000 years, the world will end. //// Discord https://dsc gg/wetread. Link to donations in the Discord. Chapter 372, at the C2. In 10,000 years. I take a sharp breath. Though 10,000 years might seem like a long time, it isn't such a lengthy period for those at the 4-axis stage and above. WHY is the end happening? I don't know the details, but from what I've heard, when the attraction force of a heavenly domain reaches its peak, the astral realm contracts and the end occurs. Pardon? The sacred master calls it the Great Contraction or the Great Collapse. My nickname and techniques are derived from it. According to Jang Ik, the heavenly domain we are in seems to expand continuously, but then starts contracting at some point, eventually returning to the singular point of its origin. Editor seems to be inspired by the Big Crunch bounce theory from cosmology. The exact reason why this happens is unknown, but from what I know, even if the Great Collapse occurs, the middle realms will never be destroyed. The middle realms won't be destroyed. Yeah, however, as the Sacred Master said, when the Great Collapse occurs and the end arrives, even if the middle realms remain intact, this heavenly domain will be filled with such intense heat and light that no living being can survive. Everything will turn into primordial light and vanish. Unless one is at the quasi-immortal level, they will die without any resistance. Even sacred masters who have merged with the middle realms may either endure or perish, purely based on luck. It's truly terrifying. I tremble at this horrifying fact. Then, within 10,000 years, I need to grow strong enough to withstand the end. However, I'm not sure if I can reach the star-shattering stage, even after 10,000 years. I understand about the end. Then may I ask one last question? Sure, ask away. I understand that in order to enter the next realm, one must sever everything. That's correct. Ho, have you found a clue to the next stage? No, I just heard about it. That's also a skill. Well, that's right. If you want to enter the same domain as mine, you'll have to sever everything. I ask with a serious gaze. How do I sever? Jang Ik seems to understand what I'm implying by looking at my intent. I see. Are you saying you can't sever it? Yes. Actually, the reason I tried to send an avatar through the middle zones of the ancient force realm to the lightning sacred sea, where the esteemed ones are, is for this. I reveal my inner thoughts without hesitation. I came to ask if there's an external method to reach that realm without severing, or if it's truly necessary to sever everything to attain that stage. Jang Ik strokes his chin. First, let me explain to you the difference between a typical star-shattering stage and my realm. Those in the star-shattering stage are people whose connections and emotions have become futile after ascending. In contrast, I had to sever such things to reach this domain. I ponder the difference between the two. The star-shattering stage allows for emotions and connections during breakthrough, which naturally fade afterward. But this realm beyond seated detachment, standing oblivion, requires severing connections and emotions to even enter into it. However, I feel a strange feeling and ask, but doesn't the heaven-collapsing esteemed one have emotions? How do you know if I have emotions or not? Are you saying you can read my intent? He chuckles as he retrieves the golden apple he had tossed into the bonfire and takes a bite. Crunchy. Somehow, despite being an apple, it oozes meat juices instead of fruit. The apple smells of protein. As Jang Ik gnaws on the thing that can't be determined if it's apple or meat, he locks eyes with me. His mouth moves greedily, but his eyes are cold and empty. Indeed, it's incredibly difficult to read Jang Ik's intent. His intent seems utterly hollow, vague, and doubtful whether it even exists. Perhaps from the perspective of those who have reached 3 flowers gather at the summit, Jang Ik is not a living being but an exquisitely crafted meat puppet. Chuak. It's when I am meeting his gaze for some time. I feel as if I am being sucked into his empty eyes. When I come to my senses, I find myself in a cosmic space where all stars shine green. It's an illusion induced by Jang Ik's mental pressure. Kugagugaguk. My mind feels like it's about to crumble. Feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, I look up and see a green nebula taking the form of Jang Ik's face, looking down at me. This is the extent of the heaven collapsing esteemed one's mind. It isn't just the size of his consciousness. The very meaning he has pursued all his life is that immense. At this rate, is he going to cook my brain? I can't maintain my focus under such pressure. However, I know one thing for sure. Jang Ik has emotions, and he cherishes his connections. These are words I once heard from someone. I speak without yielding to his pressure. After being mocked that the heart is merely a metallic reaction, and relaying that mockery to someone else, this was the reply. Coatrial had mocked Jai Ryon's heart, and Jang Ik had responded with these words. If the heart is of the metal attribute, then according to the classification of cultivators, metal Chinese letter corresponds to Kaiyan Chinese letter / heaven. Hence the heart is as eternal as the heavens. I repeat the words of Jang Ik from my previous life in front of the present Jang Ik and shout. Isn't that right, O esteemed one? Is it not that the heart of a person can never be erased? As I make this declaration and refine my consciousness, I find myself back by the bonfire, free from Jang Ik's pressure. This one is quite something. Jang Ik crosses his arms and smiles while looking at me. That's right, emotions can never be erased. That's why even when one becomes an esteemed one, they still have emotions, greed, and fear. Though I said that other esteemed ones lose their connections and emotions, in reality, they don't truly vanish. It's just a difference in perspective. So, does that mean the true way to reach the next realm is not to abandon emotions, but to properly acknowledge and refine them? No. He bites into the golden apple, as if he doesn't understand what I'm saying. You must erase what cannot be erased. Do you understand? That's the only way to get here. Then how do you erase what cannot be erased? I told you, didn't I? You can't. He smiles while speaking incomprehensible words. To enter here, you must be able to erase what cannot be erased. Finding out how to do that will be the way of your future training. Strictly speaking, although I've accepted you as my disciple, there isn't much I can teach you. I can only give advice as someone who has gone ahead. Each individual in our heart tribe is entirely different. He points somewhere. When you entered the lightning sacred sea, you must have fallen into a region where even consciousness couldn't be used. Isn't that right? Yes. How did you get out? I raised the all-heaven sword to the plane of fate and cut through the space to escape. When I first arrived there, I stimulated my body to extend my sensory range, pulling the Qi Chinese letter from outside that space to shatter the space and escape. As you can see, you and I have different methods of leaving the same place. I could recite my insights to you, but it wouldn't suit you nor be helpful. Surung. Jang Ik stands up from his seat and says, that's why, even among the disciples I have a master-student relationship with and whom I've helped, none are truly my successors. All I can do is assign them training tasks that I think might suit each disciple. I listened to his words with a serious expression. Now I will assign you a training task as well. This is your first training task. He smiles slyly and says, go outside the lightning sacred sea and cut down a star. You can use the power of the heaven tribe, the earth tribe, a dharma treasure, or even someone else's help. No matter what method you use, destroy a star. I mean a star without any living beings on it. Don't invade some innocent planet and annihilate a civilization. Editor, note that the term star here can also more broadly refer to any heavenly body such as planets and moons. Buong. He swings his pado, and Jang Ik's pado turns into a ray of light that pierces my soul and embeds itself in my heart essence. Quag. Just like before, Jang Ix Pado takes its place on one side of my sword mountain. Payet. With a wave of his arm, Jang Ik sends me far away from the bonfire, sweeping me through vast space-time. Chwag. Countless scenes flash past me, and soon I arrive in an astral realm bathed in starlight. Kugaguguk. And in front of me, from where I have emerged, is a colossal decaying corpse realm shrouded in a dimensional barrier. That is one of Yang Sujin's remains. The decaying corpse realm is in the form of an enormous ring finger, each segment almost the size of Earth. Judging by its shape, it seems to be the left ring finger. Is Yang Sujin's immortal treasure a ring? The decaying corpse realm in the shape of a left ring finger has a circular indentation inside the finger. It's the mark of a ring that had been worn for a long time. The ring finger, referred to as the lightning sacred sea, is said to be the entrance to the space containing his immortal treasure. Therefore, reaching another space through traversing the lightning sacred sea suggests one mined the enormous ring. But to cut down a star, contrary to my expectations of getting beaten up by Jang Ik, it seems his training method is simply to assign tasks without much interference. A star. I recall Jang Ik splitting a planet in half. With my current power, even if I mobilize the three great ultimates, I can only overturn the continent on the planet's surface. I should be able to put a slight crack on the planet, but that is my limit. It is also the limit of a typical grand perfection integration stage cultivator. If I raise my seated detachment, standing oblivion and the heaven and earth tribe cultivation to the level of the grand perfection integration stage, borrowing the power of Dharma treasures and formations, then it might somehow work. I think I understand what Jang Ik is trying to say. Is he telling me to first raise my cultivation to the highest point possible and then return? In the early stage of seated detachment, standing oblivion, although I imitated the strength of the grand perfection integration stage by using the physical body and consciousness of the heaven and earth tribes, my actual realm is still at the four-axis stage. All right, let's go back and elevate my realm to the utmost possible before returning. Resolving to do so, I seek out my incarnation Ham Jin. Wowung. Since I originally crossed into the astral realm through Ham Jin, we are connected, making it not too difficult to locate him. Payet. Ham Jin landed on a star near the lightning sacred sea, where life forms can survive. He is on one of the continents of the star. There he has established a primitive tribal nation, and as the great chieftain, he is vigorously engaged in activities to proliferate his descendants. Ham Jin. Huff huff huff, yo. Sensing my presence, he emerges from his stone house to greet me. Oh, Wuji Ghost King, has the Great One arrived? I have been spreading the teachings of the Wuji religious order here for the Great One. I have even promulgated the Wuji Ghost King ritual scripture. Who good, well done. Thanks to you it will be a bit easier when I return. Now let's go back. Actually, I have 13 wives here, but I've only given love to 3 of them so far. Could I fairly distribute my love among all of them first? I chuckle in disbelief and reply, come back after you reach the four-axis stage. Understood. Then let me bid farewell to my wives. He summons the chiefs, speaks to them briefly, and then receives bows from dozens of chiefs and wives before flying to me laden with numerous gifts including stars, spirit stones, special products, and unique items. For some reason, he looks a bit downcast. No one tried to stop me. They all claimed to like me, but when I said I was leaving, they eagerly sent me off with bows and cheers. They are too much. I miss home. I want to see my wives back home. Quiet, let's go. I enter Ham Jin's body. That person named Jang Ik said the star with the ancient force transmission array is that one. Right. I direct attraction force to land on the star, where the middle zone of the ancient force realm is located. They said the worlds with middle zones are all on true persons' bodies. So this star is also a true person. And the world Ham Jin resides on must also be a true person disguised as a decaying corpse realm. I wondered how the battle involving star-shattering stage cultivators occurred without the world being destroyed, but it seems it wasn't an issue because the world is a true person's body. Jang Ik telling Ham Jin about the location of the middle zone of the ancient force realm must be his way of indicating that I should use it. And if he indicated using it, it means the true person who had reached out to grab us earlier must be asleep again by now. In other words, there are no problems with returning. Wovung. I, along with Ham Jin, begin crossing vast spacetime once again. \\\\asterisk. Discord https://dsc gg/wetread. Link to donations in the Discord.